Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me, my host companion, a dear friend, worthy foe, and grown adult with an extensive Pokemon collection. Ladies and gentlemen, big hand for Siege and Sarawak.
That was weird that you use that as an insult when, first of all, so many of our adult friends do, and I specifically don't, and also, it shouldn't be an insult.
I understand that. Here's the deal. It only comes across as an insult because I tried to work too many references to today's featured Brendan Fraser movie into that opening, but it was either Siege and Sarawak, grown adult with an extensive Pokemon collection, or dear friend and worthy foe. And you're both of them to me. Like, both of them worked there. So I had to just slam it all in at the beginning. Because, ladies and gentlemen...
Yeah, but if you slam it all in at once, then it becomes an insincere mess, and then nobody's really going to enjoy it.
An insincere mess that nobody really enjoys. It's a shame we don't have a narrator to further explain that. But yes, so it is May 2nd, 2022, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Brendan Fraser History Month, as it is every May. Though, just to explain the title of the episode, the anniversary report, we're not patting ourselves on the back or being all like victory lappy in year 6. That's what year 5 was for. And I recommend that you go back and listen to year 5 because it's some really good stuff. I think we put some good stuff together there. No. This is the anniversary report because also this is an episode of the Say Report that is releasing on my parents' anniversary. So I kind of wanted to do something small to celebrate their anniversary. Hence the title, The Anniversary Report. And now nothing related to anniversaries will continue to be in this episode in true Say Report tradition.
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you do it. That's how you build one of these shows. But what we're talking about...
That's how we do it.
Yeah,
sure, I don't know.
Yeah, one of these shows, the Say Report. That's how we go. So we are talking about today... I have to imagine it was 2020 because I don't believe I was acquainted with the person I had the discussion with before 2020. So it's even crazier to think that this episode is fully inspired by a conversation I had in 2020 and before, like, the world went off the rails. And yet here we are doing this episode. Because somebody asked me, and a new friend in 2020 asked me, when are you guys going to do Dudley Do-Right? And I said, Dudley Do-Right, that's not happening until like the 6th year that we celebrate Brendan Fraser History Month.
But giving yourself a nice bumper there. We were rolling into what would have been year 4, right? And
yeah.
So you were just like, give me a couple of years to ponder that one.
Well, and one of the reasons why is the Say Report, even though it looks like a cobbled together mess, maybe a straw horse, it is something that we do put a little bit of time into. And at the time of that conversation, which I believe was March of 2020, to go like one step further of just how crazy this discussion was, we had already decided that for the 4th year, we were going to do the Fraser sequels without Fraser as our theme. And I knew that for the 5th year, since it was a 5-week May, we were going to look back at the 5 years of Brendan Fraser History Month. So I already had those 2 years planned out. And I guess the only sad thing is I could have made Dudley Do-Right work as a sequel without Fraser if I had really pushed it all together. But we'll talk about that in a bit because it's still the Say Report. So before we get into the celebration, Sejan, is there anything going on in the world that you feel should be discussed that we shouldn't miss in the moment?
As far as in the moment and don't miss it, I did decide to jump onto the train this week on that Nintendo Switch Classic, the one that came out this week, Mario Brothers U. I think it's
Super Mario Brothers U.
Yeah,
Deluxe.
So Switch Sports came out this week, and I didn't pay attention to it. I don't know if anybody did, which is kind of a sad commentary on the sports franchise. I mean, even the what was the not Wii Sports? Wii Sports Resort.
Wii
Is that
Sports Resort, yeah.
that was like the weird follow-up that had the other stuff in it, right? The other
So,
games in it?
yeah, Wii Sports Resort was the follow-up where you had archery and all that, and it was supposed to show off the Wii Motion Plus,
Right.
the little add-on that gave more, like, refined control, where if you turned your wrist in-game, your character would turn their wrist, and it was supposed to be real time, but honestly, it never really worked. The truest statement that I can say about the Wii Motion Plus is that I don't own one. I had a release day Wii. I got a Wii on release day. We've played so many games of Wii, specifically bowling, but all of the Wii sports have been celebrated in the household since 2006. But when the Wii Motion Plus came out, nobody in this house was jumping to get that.
Yeah, and they followed that up on the Wii U with Nintendo Land, right? Like that was kind of Nintendo Land was kind of the proof of concept style game that was meant to highlight what the stuff could do, right? Like what the hardware could really be capable of. And that's what made Wii Sports so cool was like not only did it come packaged in, right?
Yep.
But on top of that, like like it wasn't just a demo disc, which is what I think of when I think of like my old PlayStation and playing the same fucking level on SS Trixie or Power Appa the Rappa was the other one that was on that disc.
Kick, punch, it's all in the mind.
Yeah, but you would play like one level just over and over and over again. And you're like, I never have to buy Power Appa the Rappa. I got the demo.
I'm so good at the karate level of Parappa the Rappa, and then as soon as the driver's ed level, which is the second one, starts, I'm like, I have no idea what to do. I've gotten a little bit better at that one because the song is so good. Stop and turn and signal to the left. And then there's the flea market. And that one, I have no idea what's happening. Parappa the Rappa is a game. I wouldn't mind doing a very special episode of Parappa the Rappa, to just be completely honest with you.
Well, and they put that re-release out a couple of years ago, so we would even be able to actually play it.
And hopefully without the lag that you see if you try to emulate it.
Right.
Because I tried to beat it on emulator a couple of years ago, and I was able to, after 3 hours, get to the 5th level, which is sort of a boss rush where you go through all of the people who have taught you lessons. Mm-hmm. And I was so mad at the game because I'm hitting it in time, and you're just telling me I'm not. And it's like, well, of course not. Because there's no lag. There's lag. There was no lag back then because it was a CRT analog signal. Now you're having the same issue with Guitar Hero, but Guitar Hero, as crazy as this is going to sound, was actually a little bit forgiving in a way that Parappa wasn't.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's one of the reasons why it was such a big deal when they re-released it. But yeah, so the idea of like the demo game, right?
Yeah.
But what Wii Sports did was like it was better than that, right? Like it was on the level of a Nintendo quality game that like you felt like you were getting something really special, and they've tried to recapture that. So they're doing that Nintendo thing where they picked up that the audience liked something, but they just for the life of them can't seem to figure out what it was. So you had the Wii Sports Resort, you had then Nintendo Land, and then here we are, 6 years into the Switch lifespan?
It came out 2017. Yeah, 6 years, because we came 2 months before the Switch came out.
Yeah, so like, man, and so the Switch, it's finally getting its Wii Sports, and I haven't heard anybody.
As opposed to 1-2 Switch, which was the tech demo for Nintendo Switch, but also you had to pay $60 to get it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very good.
I forgot about it, to be entirely honest. Yeah.
But you could feel that there are 2 ice cubes and now 3 ice cubes in your glass, Siegen. Haptics. So the person on the Say Report who has paid attention to Switch Sports is myself. I might be the only person in the world who paid attention to it, though I have seen a couple of shared bowling scores on my Facebook. And the only reason why I paid any attention to Switch Sports was the fact that in the pandemic, when we had nowhere else to go, we got out the old Wii, and Saturday nights turned into bowling league at the Decker House. So we would get drunk off our asses and we would bowl. And it was how we passed the first year of the pandemic, until it got to the point where, like, this isn't fun anymore because we're still stuck inside. This shit is still going on.
Yeah, this is,
Like,
the pandemic kind of lost its
Yeah.
shine, as it were.
yeah. And one of the situations where it's just like, this was fun when it's like, yeah, we'll bowl until we can go outside and do real things again. I remember we also had a bowl in the house where we would put Post-it notes where we had written what we want to do after the pandemic. And I think we just threw that bowl away, to be completely honest with you. It's not where it used to be. And I
Bowl of false hopes and dreams.
yeah, really.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing in that bowl, and then we'll get back to the game, is I wrote down Philadelphia, open parentheses, city, close parentheses, and I also wrote down Philadelphia, open parentheses, movie, close parentheses, because I've never seen Philadelphia, but, like, I don't want to watch Philadelphia in the height of a pandemic.
Yes.
But it's one of those movies I feel like I should watch. Yes. So, as you were about to say about Switch Sports.
Oh yeah, so no, so I mean, even to the point where what I ended up purchasing today was a re-release of, at this point, what is a 10-year-old game?
At least, yeah, because it was 2012 that it came out.
Yeah.
So it'll be 10 years old in November.
Yeah, and it's actually it's a Mario game that I missed, and then subsequently a Luigi game that I missed, and the deluxe package is just like, it's a nice little, like, re-release that they put together, like, with including both versions of the game. There's some extra stuff that, as far as I remember, was not on the old ones, but again, I didn't really touch the old one much. Like over at a friend's house, because it was that weird era in the Wii and Wii U where, like, CJ didn't own the system because all of his friends had them. So why would he spend money on them? He would just go over to other people's houses and play them. So I didn't really get like deep into any of those games. But I'm excited because now I get to do that with this, and that's what I did instead of the new release game that came out.
Well, I think you made the right decision. As somebody who bought Switch Sports, played it for an hour, and I only know I played it for an hour because after an hour it said, "You've been playing for an hour. Do you want to take a break?"
Yeah, and that old Nintendo.
And I'm like, I'll take a break.
Outside.
And let me be honest with you, Switch Sports. I'm gonna say that we're taking a break, but then I'm gonna ghost you. And I'm probably never going to play you again.
Ouch.
And I don't mean to be like a dick about it. It's just the fact of the matter is it is not as good as Wii Sports was, which is really saying something.
Well, that's what I mean, is they've been trying to capture that magic over and over again, and have proven time and again. I mean, even 1-2 Switch, like, now that you've mentioned that one, like, really nails it home for me, that they just can't even... They cannot put their finger on what was so special about that particular game, and I don't understand how they can't. Like there's just, like, first of all, recreate those sports, which I think they did in this one, right?
Nope.
Like, that was
the only games.
I thought bowling.
The only
Okay.
sports that are from the original 5 that are on Switch Sports currently, and we'll address that after, is tennis and bowling.
Okay.
And then the other 4 games are the sword fighting Campara. You have soccer, which is new, or maybe that wasn't one, because the original 5 sports were boxing, baseball, tennis, bowling, and
Frisbee.
some fifth
or was that
one.
resort?
No, Frisbee
that
was resort. Golf. Did I say golf?
Golf, bowling,
Baseball,
wrestling,
tennis, boxing. Those were the first 5.
Yeah.
So the only 2 that are there now are bowling and tennis is not as good as tennis was on the Wii because you're forced to play doubles. It's always doubles. And if you're just a single player, there's a ghost version of you that's close to the net, and that guy gets in the way. If you just like, well, I'm just going to play with my back person. I'm just going to try to return there. But, you get ready to swing, and they'll swing because the ball is near them. And then you're like, oh, okay. And that stops the back guy from moving towards the ball. It was disappointing. And really, we only played like 4 matches of it before we're like, yeah, we're done with the tennis. And then bowling did something good. They added, it's like double dare bowling, obstacle course bowling.
Oh.
And that's a fun idea. until the obstacles are absolutely ridiculous. And it's not like you can tell what the obstacle is. I believe it's the 7th lane that you do. It is a moving platform is in the middle of the bowling alley. And what you can't see because you're only looking at it straight on is that that moving platform is angled upwards.
Okay.
So then afterwards, your ball is going to drop. So you lose some of your speed there with that drop.
So it's almost like mini golf. It becomes like and you have to think about strength and angles and stuff like that.
And then like some of it is like a windmill thing in the middle of it where you have to like make sure you bowl so it doesn't get hit. It's mini golf is actually even better than what I said. My favorite one is like half pipe. The lane becomes a half pipe. That's the only strike that I got in the whole thing. And then I was just like, oh, I can bowl down a half pipe and make that end in a strike. I've done that in real life. No, I haven't. Don't report me to the skate park authorities. I'm not really doing that. But yeah, it's so that's the only true new thing. But the bowling mechanic is so different from what it was on Wii Sports. And maybe if I hadn't spent a year playing it, I wouldn't notice. But do you remember how to bowl in Wii Sports? Is going to be my question.
Don't you have to like hold the button down, pull your hand back, and then like throw your hand forward and release the button at the same time?
That's correct, see, Jim.
Yeah.
You don't need to release the button anymore.
Oh, weird.
And so what you do is you angle, you pull down the button, and then you just do the rolling motion. So it feels less like real bowling because the nice thing about the trigger of it felt like the release of the ball. So like
part or at least you associated with it, right?
Yeah.
Like you associated the two, whether or not they felt like they were similar actions. It's just the idea of giving you something to do in that moment gives you the sensation that you're included. I mean, it's one of the oldest video game tricks in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's why Rumble exists. Is like we don't have to actually simulate them getting shot, but if we, every time a bullet hits, there's a vibration in their hand. They're going to get the sensation that is going to bring them deeper into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like taking more and more of that away, just all that's doing is just disassociating further and further from what you're actually doing on screen.
Well, and even you say that it doesn't have any connection to it, there is some finesse into when you release that back trigger, because that's when your Mii releases the ball.
Right.
So if you swing all the way and then release, you lob it. So it goes up and then it falls and it loses some of the speed. You had to be smart enough to know I need to release when it would get the maximum speed of my throw of the ball.
Well, and like bowling, like we could joke all we want about whether or not bowling is a physical sport, but like mentally there's a lot going on because there is also something to the idea about when you release, when you get topspin and backspin, left and right, like you're directional. And so like that is all part of the math in getting your ball to behave a certain way in bowling. And I don't want to say that Wii Bowling like cracked the code and was the best bowling simulator that had ever been created, but the mere fact that was part of the equation was actually really cool. I don't know how much it was actually affecting it. I don't know how much it was, how much of it is myself thinking like, well, I know if I release the ball here, it'll go straight, or rather just at this point, your hand is just as straight as it's possibly going to be in the throw siege. And so that's your best personal option is to release it then. But so it could all just be a head game, right? But just the fact that it was in there at least made it feel like I was actually bowling. Again, that disassociation, you remove that element and suddenly I really feel like I'm not doing much here.
Yeah, and the worst part is every time I go to bowl, I release the trigger at the release moment and then I get yelled at for why are you releasing the trigger? And I'm like, well, because that's how the game that this game purports to be a remake of was played. So the asshole here is you, Switch Sports, and not me.
It's weird because like, you want remakes and re-releases and revisits or sequels, requels, whatever you want to freaking call them. But you want them to do something more. You don't want them to just be the thing that you had 10 years ago. You want to feel like there's some added value on top of that. So you want there to be differences. You want that. But like core control mechanics is not where you make that decision.
We're re-releasing Super Mario Brothers, and now this time to run, you hold down the A button and jump is on B. You know what? I made that up, saying that that's what what they do with the Super Mario Brother game, that's literally what the Mega Man Anniversary Collection did. Was switch the shoot and jump button and gave you no ability to remap your controllers.
Yeah, I mean, switching buttons, switching button like specifics, like, oh, he used to jump the moment that you pressed it, but now there's this moment where he does a quick squat before he jumps, and like, so that changes the entire ways in which your brain will play a level, like, and that has happened in the past too. Like, there's been all sorts of weird decisions in re-releases in terms of like, hey, we're gonna make this one major change to what people consider to be like the most important part, but we're, you know, it's okay, trust us, and then it never goes well, right? And this is just another example of that.
Yeah, I mean, Super Mario 35, I love Super Mario 35, and every day I hope for it to come back, but the game screen was lowered like 5 pixels. I don't have the exact math on that. There are people who have done the exact math on it. And so there were like speedrunners and stuff who would play the game and absolutely hated it because of that adjustment of 5 pixels. And that feels like nothing, but it can be everything if you know how to, you know, interact with something and then it changes. But really all we want from a remaster or a requel or a or any of these things that they can be called now, because also that term is slung around and thrown around and is wrong so many times.
Like, all of them are, but which one are you talking about specifically?
Well, I mean, like, sometimes we'll call a game a remaster, and really it's just a re-release. I'm thinking specifically of Chrono Cross remaster that runs at 20 frames per second. And
they'll call it a remaster, but they've actually rebuilt the game from the ground up, and that's where you start to see differences that people feel upset by. That's one of the other major sins.
Yeah,
and that's not it either. Like, yeah,
it's always an issue. But I mean, something like this, Switch Sports. Yeah, I want the core mechanics to be the same, and you know what was an added bonus? You know what's the thing I already talked about, feeling like I had added value, is mini golf bowling. Having to figure out how to get down a lane that has, and there's 3 different levels of that. So, like, give me that, and that's enough if you keep the regular bowling mechanics intact. But they didn't do that. There's just the fact is that they didn't do that.
Well, I'm having fun with Mario, and especially playing with the fam and stuff. It's been really cool.
I mean, that's the one that added Toadette and the Bowsette crown, right? And I think,
and then this version
added
Nabbit.
So Nabbit is in the
easiest version,
right? He's in the Mario version now, right?
Yes,
because he was added for Luigi U.
Luigi U, yeah, that makes sense.
Luigi U is probably one of my favorite like DLCs that has ever happened, because it was this time where like Nintendo understood people are speedrunning our games, so they put together essentially a speedrun version of Super Mario Brothers U, where every level you have 100 seconds to get through, and it is just about getting from beginning to end as fast as possible. And they give you the Nabbit character who doesn't take damage, so you can learn the level.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great little package. Cool. Yeah, and the challenges that are in there, and being able to play as my Mii in those is really cute. And then what they do is in the background, all of your other Miis are all like dancing around in the background. So I was just like running through as myself dressed as Mario, and then all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, that's my girlfriend back there. I did like, you know, like little goofy stuff like that just kind of warms your heart, you know. And I don't know why Nintendo is one of the only brands out there capable of pulling at those particular heartstrings, but they can't seem to figure out which strings those are. So it's always hit or miss whether or not they're going to be able to do it, you know. And it's and this week was just really funny to me because I went into the store, the Nintendo, the e-store to buy something. For it. Well, I just meant when I said the store, I realized that might have meant the physical store, and
that's what I thought you meant too. I'm like, you were in New York and you didn't call.
but yeah, I went into the eShop and literally like looked at the new one and looked at Mario right next to it in my wish list, and I was just like, I'm not, if I'm going to spend this money today, I know where I'm spending it, and I'm glad to hear I made the right choice.
You definitely
we're going on vacation in a couple of weeks out in June. Like, we're going to take like 2 or 3 days to just run away to like an Airbnb, because we just need to get out of the house, right? we're gonna bring the Switch along. We've purposely got a place that had a nice big TV and a nice big kitchen and things like that. And maybe for that one particular weekend, because we're just gonna be just locked in a house for a few days, and like maybe then it might be cool to explore the new Wii Sports. But that'll give it some time for me to really do some research on whether or not it's worth it.
And maybe golf will be released by then. It won't.
Yeah, so
I don't know when golf is coming.
What's with the weird games are changing element to it?
So it's not so much games are changing, or if there might be a thing.
So you're not going to lose anything.
No,
you're just going to gain stuff.
It's the new Nintendo model, where we want to get this game out to you, but it's not finished. We saw this with Nintendo with Mario Golf. We saw this with Mario Tennis Aces, where like the core concept is there.
Yeah.
And now that we have the core concept there for this game, we're going to release it, but know that we have people still working to give you a complete package. And we're not going to charge you down the line to give you the full game that we promised on this release date.
Yeah, I think it worked really well with something like Mario Maker 2, where they really, there was so much in the original package, and then releasing the 3D World update was what it was?
No, 3D World was there from the start. It was more just releasing extra enemies, the Link skin, the Mario Brothers 2 skin.
It was the Link. Yeah, it was adding the Link elements and the ability to like pick up and throw things and playing in those older versions. But yeah, the add-ons that they gave to that game about 6 months into its life cycle, like really made sense. It made sense to hold off on some of those crazier ass mechanics that they added, because it gave people a long time to really get into and learn the main mechanics that were there, and then they complicated them with all of this extra stuff and things like that. And really cool, and that was it really felt like they were doing something. And I'll even give it to Mario Golf. I didn't really feel like Mario Golf wasn't a full experience as I played it, but now that there's a couple of extra courses and I get to play as Wiggler, like that's fun. Like I don't feel like I was cheated out of any game in that sense. Whereas if I buy Wii Sports and they're introducing what I consider to be like one of the only reasons to buy it, which would be Wii Golf, they're going to hold off on that and then act like they're doing me a favor later on by giving it to me for free. Like, no, it's like, that's when I start to get into the conversation that you're having, where it feels like what they're doing is putting out the game half finished and then just completing it and patching it later. And like, that sucks. It doesn't feel like it's a benefit anymore like it did with those earlier games.
But the thing is, those earlier games that you talk about, while it feels like it's a benefit, right? Like, oh, wow, now that we've had time with the game, we get to play as Link and we know the game. That's just like a bonus. But it wasn't as if they hadn't said, oh, we want to put Link into this game. We want that to be part of the game. They were working on that from the beginning. They just were like, we're kind of hit a snag on this, so let's release the game and then keep working on it.
Sure, but like, if the game that they release is a full experience, I mean, like the biggest, most egregious example of this in history was actually like a decade ago at this point. Is it Dragon's Dogma? No, what's the one that's all of the QuickTime events and that they didn't put an ending in the game. They actually put it out as DLC you had to pay for later on.
I believe it is Dragon's Dogma. That sounds right. If it's a Capcom game, I think, yeah, it's Capcom. Dragon's Dogma was definitely Capcom, and I didn't buy the game. I was so excited for the game, but then I ended up not buying it. We have a listener who's going to tell me if we're wrong or right on it being Dragon's Dogma.
I don't think it's Dragon's Dogma. I think it's something. God. It's like God Killer. I don't know.
Oh, it's Asura's Wrath.
Yes.
It is Asura's Wrath, where the game ends and then you have to download the ending and pay for it. Yeah.
And you have to, at the time, you had to buy the actual ending to the game. And like, there were all these conversations at the time of like, well, this is the death of DLC, right? And so I don't think that they've ever gone that bad, is what I'm getting at. Is I think that they've ridden the line of what they consider to be additional content. And like, a company that's making a video game saying, hey, we're not going to crush our developers to get this particular element in the game right now because we have the option to add it later. We're going to take that opportunity. I think you can celebrate that line of thinking. The problem becomes when they're not giving you a full experience up front, though. You're
Yeah,
not buying in as a as like a backer on fucking Kickstarter, or this isn't green, what is it, Project
Project
Greenlight or whatever the
Greenlight.
fuck it is
Yeah, it's
on Steam, right?
early access is what I would call it
Right.
at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's not the deal here, Nintendo. Like I'm not buying a game off the shelf from Nintendo for early access. I will wait longer for a game if that's what it means. I'm never going to be somebody that complains about a delay on a thing, because like if that just means that people are getting the opportunity to do what they want, and if in that delay process they're also considering like, hey, just so that we also don't like kill our developers, which is part of the problem, is that that never seems to be part of that math. I would much rather wait, right?
Hmm.
But you know, I don't think that there's any. I think there's a compromise. I think there's a middle ground, and I think Nintendo has done a good job riding that middle ground most of the time. But there's definitely moments where you can point where you're just like, what are you doing? You just like why are you even focusing on this? I mean, like the Mario Kart stuff still it blows my mind, and I like that content.
Yeah. It where it comes down, where Nintendo is okay and where we're not calling for the pitchforks and torches for Nintendo's head, is
Yet,
that they don't yet, right? And there are some people who are, but I'm specifically talking Siegen and I. It is one of those situations where had they charged even just $5 for the Link edition to Mario Maker, people would have been upset because it was known that that was something they had planned to put into the game. If
yeah,
the delay of being able to include it with the release, they then say, oh, we can charge to add this, that's when people get pissed. And that's exactly what happened with the Shara's Wrath, is you guys were working on this as the ending of the game. Your
right.
release date came along, you said, well, we can release it without it and then patch it in later. And then when it comes time to patch it in, you're like, hey, you know what? We could charge $15 for this.
Yeah, I think it might have even gotten more evil than that, because if I remember correctly, this was also the time of the conversation of DLC on disc,
Yep.
or on disc DLC, I guess is the right way of saying that. I don't know why. But the idea that that content is already created and printed on the physical copy you bought, but you literally don't have the licensing access for part of that information until you pay them extra money for the quote unquote DLC, downloadable
Yeah.
content, my ass. And that became a huge conversation at that time, because like, what is the money supposedly going towards? You've crushed your development time so that you could get it done and on here. I've already paid you for it and it's in my hand, and now you're telling me that if I'm going to have the right to do anything with it, I need to pay you more money. It becomes a really gross conversation. I'm not even saying that it's necessarily right or wrong in a legal sense, just immorally, right?
Yeah, it's also the time of, if you buy a game, if you buy the game new, you're going to get access to Catwoman in Arkham City.
Right,
Where
right.
if you buy it at like a GameStop to try to save money, you need to download her, even though that's included as part of the game.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it was a really weird time. So what we're seeing now, what Nintendo is doing, is definitely different from that. But it doesn't change the fact that if I buy Switch Sports right now, right? And I did. I bought Switch Sports on release date. I am getting less than somebody who buys it, let's say 6 months from now.
Hmm.
And because I'm getting less, I might, have burned through my time with it. And it all comes back to my personal issue with the fact that I don't like patching. I don't like these patches to games that completely change the experience. Because that's the same sort of thing as this free edition of golf that Nintendo is doing to Switch Sports. And I know it's a personal hang-up of mine, but it's strange. Where if I played Elden Ring on release weekend, there were bosses that were harder. There were situations that were different. And now, if you right now, Siegen, were to go out and buy and download Elden Ring, you would only have access to what the game has become. And
Right.
some of its good changes and some of its bad changes and glitch changes that you could either wait until they get fixed or maybe they never get fixed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like quality of life changes and things like that are always appreciated. And I think that it's one of those things where it has to be viewed on a case by case basis. And unfortunately, the problem is that when the cases are bad, they're really bad, and they're much more. Oops, sorry, turn my phone off. Who's texting me while I'm doing that thing?
I'm,
Don't you
I'm
people know
here.
I'm busy?
So,
um, But yeah, like quality of life changes are something that I'm always going to be okay with versus like you're mentioning, like, you know, completely changing the mechanics of certain bosses to the point where people feel like they're unplayable or too easy, or it's just weird conversations that you find yourself in as a developer that you didn't have to be in the first place if you had just if you had just kept, you know, stuck to your guns, stuck to your principles. It's a very weird world that we live in as far as gaming because of the fact that games can now evolve in a way that they never did before. Imagine if this starts happening with movies, like
Well,
we
cats.
just well, but like literally like you bought a version of it and then the version that you bought like updates on you unexpectedly. And like to some people that is the only version they'll ever have access to and things like that, right? Like, and we kind of did that with like, you know, director's cuts and
Star
stuff. But
Wars.
the barrier for entry on that is so high. The possibility of that happening is so low that it is celebrated when it does happen because a lot of work had to go into making it happen. Whereas with gaming, it's so easy now for any company out there to just, because we are on systems that demand you be on the internet in order to work most of the time, like they have the ability to at any given time just go in and change their game on you. You may not even know it necessarily if you're not somebody that's clued into the community. Like you may not even be made aware. You might be so used to the fact that like, yeah, sometimes when I turn my game on, I have to wait 20 minutes for it to do an update, but then I play my game and things are fine. And then one day you play your Blasphemous and everything's fucking different.
Yeah. And it's not new. The other thing is it's not new because there was a running change to say Mega Man X, which is a 1994 game where the first pressing had had some things in it that they wanted to address. So then when they made another set of them, they addressed those changes. It's similar to like the Japanese release of Link to the Past and the American release. They cleaned up some glitches that make the game faster. What I think of is if you use the mirror in a place where it won't warp you to the door while pushing a block, the block disappears, which takes all the challenge out of any block challenge.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you can just do that and push one, and then the path is open to you. And it's like, so it's not a new thing, patching games to fix things that the developers like, oh, I don't really want there to be in there. Or like Maniac Mansion for NES, the first 25,000 copies, I think, like it's an absurd number. You could kill the hamster in. And then when people were like, you can't be killing hamsters on an NES game, they re-released it so that you couldn't kill the hamster.
Yeah.
And like it's a thing that happened before. The only reason why now we can notice it and comment on it is because it is so much easier to update a game when your system is always connected to the internet.
Yeah, and like required that you give it permission to have this kind of access. If you want to play games and you accept user agreements, large part of that user agreement is you saying to the developer, "We give you permission to at any time come in and change our product." Like that is why that is in large part why a lot of that legalese is there in front of you, is to give them that ability so that you can't complain like this in any meaningful way.
Right. And also, if you want to take full advantage of any of your products, because I haven't updated Elden Ring since the patches happened, but since I didn't update Elden Ring, I can't play online with people anymore. And that's a huge part of the Elden Ring experience.
Mm.
So it's one of those, like they force you not just legally with the agreements that you agree to without reading, but also functionally. If you want the game to function the way that you purchased it, you also need to agree to download the patches.
Yeah.
And the worst one is when it patches out an exploit that speedrunners are using, or really any sort of exploit, because it just feels like the developer being, oh, no, we didn't want you to do it that way. So we're going to take it out of there.
If it's not something that's breaking the game, I don't understand taking it. Like, and I don't mean breaking, because like they are breaking the game in a lot of these speedruns, but I mean literally making them so that the game like is unplayable and like your system won't turn back on. Bullshit. Yeah. Fix that. But like, who cares? If somebody wants to glitch their game in order to have some extra fun with it, like then let people do that stuff.
Yeah, if it's
let people play with the toys they buy.
If it's somebody like that casually playing is probably never going to experience what the speedrunner is doing,
Mhm.
then let them have it. I think specifically about like Metroid Dread, right? To go back to Nintendo, like there was ways to go through the floor and everything like that, and they cleaned up all of them, even though the way to do it like required you to back out to the menu and reset the game, which
Yeah.
people generally are not going to do that accidentally. Like, it is because the group of Metroid speedrunners experimented with the game that they found those glitches. But then they also put out these speedruns while the game is still having, like, developer time, right? While developers are still under contract. So then they're definitely going to be like, oh, yeah, we got to fix that, right? Before your guys' contracts run out.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's one of those things. And the big one that I think of, and then we will move on past this, is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. It's not just, I mean, I played that a week before it released. I understand that my experience with that is insane, but also 2 weeks after release, when developers who've been watching Twitch streams and seeing things on YouTube identified the spells that were like used the most by people playing the game, they weakened all of those spells with a patch, so that people would have to do other things in the game.
Weird.
And that's just like, that feels like an overstep of the artistic enjoyer. I guess I'll call it the reader-writer experience.
Yeah, the relationship there, and you know, at that point, I bought the game. It's mine. I own it. Stop messing with it. Like, there's also that element to it too. I don't know. It's been a weird, but I made the smart decision and bought a game that was 10 years old, and I'm enjoying that. And I think that that's something that I'm learning more and more and more with the stuff nowadays. You know, is like, I just like, if you're buying new, you're taking a risk, and part of that risk means that you kind of lose the right to to complain about some stuff. I think that's also part of it. Is it's like, I also understand that Wii Sports is not what it was all, you know, what it should be, shall I say? But some of the weird adverse reactions I've seen to it online are also just like egregious. Like, calm down, guys. Like, at the end of the day, you got what was on the tin. But you know, in some cases you didn't. But those aren't the conversations I'm hearing. I'm just hearing people talking about how Nintendo is going to be bought by Sega someday for some reason. I don't know why.
For Dreamcast 2, Siegen. Everybody wants Dreamcast 2.
Yeah, everybody still keeps putting that out there. You know, I once predicted, probably at this point 10 years ago, that in 10 years Nintendo would probably not be making hardware anymore. And I still stand by that. I don't know if there's going to be anything after the Switch. I will be pleasantly surprised when there is, but right now, if they told me tomorrow that the Switch Pro or whatever it is that's going to be coming out with the OLED screen or whatever, if they said that was the last thing they ever put out, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, the Switch Pro would have to be some sort of hardware change, because the OLED Switch is out there. Oh, I have one in the house.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be, well, anyway. But
if that were the last one,
having the better processing and also, you know, all of the weird individual stories that you hear out there of people's like switches just, you know, turning off one day and never turning back on and things like that. Not happening a lot, by the way. I'm not acting like that's like a huge thing. It's not like a red ring situation, but you know, if they can kind of clean up some of the rough edges of the current Switch and put out a little bit of a more, you know, kick-ass system with maybe a little bit more memory, guys, if you're listening, like if they could do that, they can basically sit on their laurels and just use the Switch for the rest of their life as their last piece of hardware and start releasing for other systems, and they would be just fine.
Yeah, if I could play the Switch games that I have, the only reason I have a Switch is for the Nintendo exclusive games. And more and more. Like, I took Kirby and the Forgotten Land out of my Switch to put in Switch Sports, and I'm like, well, it was fun, Kirby, but I don't imagine you're ever going back in my Switch. Like, and I just want to acknowledge that at this moment. I had so much fun with that game. I got to 98% completion, but that last 2% is leveling up every single ability to its highest level, and the only way to get that currency is to go through the arena umpteen times until I have enough of the upgrade currency to do that. And then the other thing is to get all of the gacha prizes, of which there are 4 collections, minimum 200 figures in each collection.
I'm running into that same issue with Tiny Tina, where I have 100%ed the content in that game. I have run through some of the after game content and done some stuff, and I'm down to basically having every trophy except the upgrade trophies. And the upgrades in that game get so ridiculously expensive. They get upwards of like $10 million for the final upgrade on stuff, and like it just and there's like 13 or 14 things that you can upgrade. So they're one of the trophies is to upgrade everything to the max. The amount of time I would have to spend playing after game content that is definitely repeatable, and like I will maybe get there in like 6 or 7 months, but it's not anything I want to sit down and burn through in a weekend.
Yeah.
And like I've hit this point with that game where I'm just like, man, I'm so close. I'm so close to doing everything you could possibly do in this game, and now they've put this unobtainable wall. Like I can't. It feels disingenuous, and it feels like it's just padding out the back end of that game. For a game that really didn't need it. I was very happy with the experience that I had with that game, and adding that last little bit of carrot and stick just really is annoying more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, they added more stick because the carrot is still the same.
Yeah, the carrot is the same carrot it's
Yeah.
always been, but they've just really beat you with that stick.
You're hitting a lot of stick on your way to it. And the problem with being repeatable, the end game stuff being repeatable, is that it also becomes repetitive.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because you're going to keep doing the same thing, and it doesn't change.
Yeah,
So-
and like I said, like the multiplayer aspect and the ability to like to update the game as they will be doing. It's not that I feel I'll never get to a point where those trophies will be obtainable, but not right now. Like, and so that's why I needed something different to sink my teeth into. And so Mario once again saved the day.
Excellent. And that's what Mario's for, saving the day. I guess since we're also talking about Mario, the delay of the Super Mario Brother movie from Christmas 2020 to summer 2023 is an interesting one. But
You
have
meant
you
2022, right?
What?
You said the Christmas of 2020 for the
Oh, I meant
for the initial
2022. Yeah,
release.
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
what?
no, it was supposed to come out December 2022, and now it's been moved to 2023. But have you seen, like, apparently some test audiences saw the movie, and they don't give a shit about their NDR, and are talking about the movie.
How did they? No, I did not see that.
Oh man, it is. I recommend you go out and read it because I also don't want to like say anything on the show, and then people be like, "Well, Devin said the movie was about this," and Devin was wrong because I would then. It's just hearsay, right? Everything that I've read is hearsay until I can get my hands on a script, which I'm working to do. I got the Blue Door Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle script. I bet I can get the Super Mario Brothers script. And that's my challenge to myself. But based on what people are saying, it was not going to be a Sonic. And I think they really want it to be a Sonic.
Yeah, I think that's the wrong aim for it. I think if they should aim more towards a Lego movie if they're smart. But
well, they got Chris Pratt, so they're already on the right track.
well, I mean, all jokes aside, but that element of this is a world that we all love and everybody's happy and we all want to be part of it, and like a celebration, right, of that. Like Sonic is great, but it does not feel like it is a celebration of Sonic. I haven't seen Sonic 2 yet, and
by all accounts, Sonic 2 is that celebration.
Yeah, with Knuckles and Tails being there for sure, and then did you know his last name is a joke, miles per hour?
Yes, I did. His actual name is Miles Prower. Tails is his nickname.
Yeah, Tails is his nickname, right?
So he's Miles Tails per hour.
I just like pointing out to people that
Do you know Sonic's real name is Ogilvy Maurice Hedgehog?
I knew that. Didn't his dad get hit by a car or something? Isn't that why he strives for chili dogs?
His father did die. That is his origin story.
Yeah,
but his actual name it's not that he got hit by a car. He got roboticized. It was his uncle who got roboticized by Dr. Robotnik. And that's what his call to heroism is. But Ogilvy Maurice Hedgehog. That's not a cool name. I'd go by Sonic too. But
oh man.
But yeah, by all accounts, and again, you can go if you just type in Super Mario movie spoilers. Everybody has done an article about it because they started dropping about the same day that the movie was announced to be delayed a full 6 months. I think what they delivered was a Lego movie style Super Mario Brothers movie, and that's not what Nintendo wanted. I think Nintendo wanted to be able to compete with Sonic, and what they're seeing and what they're hearing from people, they don't think that's going to be possible. Again, go read it. I don't want to give hearsay or anything like that, but they are out there, and it's interesting stuff that is completely believable that they would put into the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Cool.
Which is what I'm going to say.
Man.
So if you're interested and you don't care about spoilers, and for Super Mario Brothers, a game I've literally been playing my entire life, I don't.
Well, yeah, it's weird because they cannot be making. See, this is why we'll talk about this later when it gets its own episode, because it's obviously going to get its own episode when we get more information. But man, I got some opinions about that. Anyway,
All right, so that's what's going on in the world. Any other things before we jump into the Brendan Fraser of it all?
No, I want to do this. I want to talk about some Dudley.
I really want to talk about some Dudley Do-Right. I wanted to talk about it 2 years ago, but I promise, first episode of the 6th year of Brendan Fraser.
And here we are, people.
And here we are. We finally caught up with my weird talking. And we're here. We're talking about Dudley Do-Right.
Let it never be said that this airport doesn't keep its promises. Well, all right, this one. We didn't. We kept.
If you make good on one promise, I think it covers all of them.
Yeah, I think we're covered, right?
Yeah, I think that's how it works. So where I want to start, right, just to get it out of the way, is the fact that this film released with a new fractured fairy tale.
Yeah, so we started recording today, and you were like, "Yeah, so did you see the Fox, the Box, the Locks?" And I was like, "What is this language problem that I wasn't understanding anything you were saying?" Yeah, it turns out that I completely somehow missed, due to my various ways of getting a hold of this movie, that there was like a whole like 10-minute, like how long is it? Is it Olaf's Big Fuzzy Adventure all over again, where Disney like tricked everybody into watching a 40-minute movie before Coco?
It's 5 minutes long. It's a 5-minute short.
Okay.
It's a short by every definition of the word.
Well, and in true fractured fairy tales fashion, then, like, they were only ever that long on Rocky and Bullwinkle,
right? And it's great because it does evoke those feelings of The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, which Dudley Do-Right was released to coincide with like the 40th anniversary of. Like, this was very much, we're doing a Dudley Do-Right movie, and I mean, it releases in 99, even though it's completed in 1998, because they want it to be part of the anniversary of the Rocky and Bullwinkle show.
Yeah, a lot of really interesting things about this one. So we've talked about George of the Jungle in the past, right?
Yep.
And it definitely comes from that same
Jay Ward
place.
did both of them. So
yeah, well, it's weird because what you have is we talked about George of the Jungle, and that was a Disney release, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dudley Do-Right is not. Dudley Do-Right is a Universal picture, and like it does not have the same writer. Like, but the preview, funny enough, is very happy to play up that it stars the same guy and that it was from the same guy that created George of the Jungle. But, like, that has nothing to do with anything because that was, 30 years ago at this point, right?
Yeah.
So the only real connection is just Brendan Fraser. He's the only real connection between the two.
Well, you say that, but this movie, if someone came from the future, they're the one who decided we're going to do a George of the Jungle movie, we're going to do a Dudley Do-Right movie. Because these movies are so movie twins after the fact that it's insane.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say is that this movie is so clearly influenced by George of the Jungle and is hearkening back to that and is not afraid to evoke it literally in name and its advertising. But at the end of the day, it's not the same production team. It's not the same. It's not and when I say not the same writer, that's actually really important because my number one gripe with this movie is it's just not as intelligent as George of the Jungle. Take that for what it's worth. But like the funny, like dumb, slapsticky, smart dick and fart humor of George of the Jungle that we praised when we talked about that movie is just absent completely in this movie. It is attempted, but it never succeeds in any meaningful way. So, like, it's just really weird because you're not wrong. This is definitely a quote-unquote movie twin with George of the Jungle. Because, and in my own mind, I had always assumed that they were just the same people just wanting to try something different. And this is why he doesn't come back for George of the Jungle 2 is because Dudley Do-Right didn't work.
Well, also, they never asked him. To be completely fair,
yeah.
It is one of those situations where they're like, Brendan Fraser's huge now after The Mummy. He won't come back for George of the Jungle 2, where he has gone on record. If they asked me, I probably would have.
I probably would have said yes. Yeah,
But then
no,
they also have
but it's
that
the
wonderful
narrative, right?
joke. I mean, like, so much of George of the Jungle 2 is predicated on we could never get Brendan Fraser to be in this movie.
And then you find out that they never asked, which
Yeah.
is pretty on par with the
Yeah.
humor in that movie.
I mean, it's Mamma Mia, here we go again. The fact that,
Yeah.
like, we're just going to kill Meryl Streep's character because she would never come back for a sequel. And then she's like, I would have loved to do this again. Are you fucking kidding me? What are you talking
thanks.
about?
Thanks a lot.
Like,
Oh, man.
have faith that the people who are in your first movie will want to come back for a second movie. Even if you have to pivot at the end of it. I'm talking to all of the screenwriters in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it kind of feels like it could also be the Terrence Howard problem that he had with Iron Man 2, where he wasn't even shown the script. His agent fucking talked a big game and got him thrown out of that movie.
Yeah.
You know, and like famously talked about how he felt like kind of really stuck because he would not would not have made the same moves his agent did, shall we say. That being said, now we know more and more about Terrence Howard and kind of a diva attitude all across the board. So maybe he did see that script and he was just talking out his ass. But like you hear those kinds of stories, right? Where like actors, it's not even that they feel like they weren't approached. They find out somewhere down the line they were approached and they were just somewhere in the system never told about it. Was some executive stood in the way or some agent got too big for their britches and like fucked the whole thing for somebody that would have loved to have continued in those projects. And Brendan Fraser's story is full of stuff like that, like of studio execs and people like getting in the way of him doing things that he would just wanted to do. And for a while there, it's part of why he kind of steps away from the system, right?
Yeah, well, after this movie, after watching Dudley Do-Right, which I had never seen before, this is not a movie that I saw as a kid, that I had any sort of feelings for. This is a movie that existed and I just flat out never saw until 2022.
It does exist. I will agree with you on that. This is a movie that exists.
After watching this, and then after reading Brendan Fraser's reaction to Dudley Do-Right, in the fact that this script completely betrays the character, but I was too far into it before they revealed that to me, that this is not going to have the same love and respect that they had for George of the Jungle and George of the Jungle, because that's the reason he signs on for this, is he had so much fun doing George of the Jungle. He's offered Dudley Do-Right. He's like, it's another J. Ward property. I loved doing it, and if we can do that again with another one of these heroes, I'd love it. I'd love if eventually George and Dudley meet each other.
Yeah, well, and like so the pedigree on this one is also one that he's also familiar with because the writer that does come on for Dudley Do-Right, not one of the writers for George of the Jungle, but for Dudley Do-Right, is the same guy that wrote Blast from the Past, which I mean is still highly regarded as
comes out the same year.
Yeah, I thought that one was 98.
Nope, that's 99. This is the thing, is that Dudley Do-Right in my head is always 98 because that's when we started seeing stuff, and all of the credits to it say that it's a 1998 movie. On Amazon, it is a 1998 movie, but then they delayed it to 99 so that they could release it as part of the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, sorry, I thought Blast from the Past was earlier.
Nope, Blast from the Past, it is the same year. So it's actually working with the guy who did Dudley Do-Right and the original script, and he being like, yeah, I'm all for it, why he agreed to do Blast from the Past. So it's actually flip-flopped from that.
Yeah.
So the pedigree is,
but I mean, he like it's not that it's somebody. The important thing is that it's not somebody that it's not a bad writer. It's somebody that he works with and ends up pumping out one of his most beloved films is Blast from the Past. So like it's just such a wild misstep in terms of the quality of this movie. And like you were saying, this revelation that it's also not a very good Dudley Do-Right movie on top of everything else is just like it's so unfortunate. And like you can tell the love that people want to put into this movie, and you can see it specifically in poor Alfred Molina, who fucking acts his heart out in this movie. Yeah. He is amazing as Snidely. Snidely. Yeah. Sorry.
It makes sense. You could have called him Howard when the whole movie his name is Homer, which this movie does to poor Weller there. Jake Weller? Is that his name?
Snidely Whiplash, right?
Snidely Whiplash is who Alfred Molina plays. But his number one guy is named Homer. Jack Weller. Yeah. Jack Weller is the name of the actor. And he is credited as Howard. And it's like, it's not even like a joke. It is the fact
yeah.
that whoever wrote the credits for Dudley Do-Right didn't care enough to know his character's name, and they have never fixed it. Sorry, it's just it is so indicative of what
Also,
was going on in this
Howard,
movie.
and that's Jack Keller, who's amazing. By the way, I love Jack Keller. Best role ever was Big Trouble with him and what's his name there?
Tim Allen?
What's the guy's name? No. Tim Allen is in that movie, but the guy that he's playing second to that whole time, Nick's dad on New Girl.
Nick Nolte, not Nick Nolte. Dennis Farina.
Dennis Farina, thank you. Him and Dennis Farina teaming up in Big Trouble is like one of the most memorable like assassin villains from that era, which in a time full of like the like we're trying to get shorty without get shorty. But anyway, so Jack Keller is amazing as Howard in this movie, but I also
Homer. His name is Homer.
See, I understand. I'm just going off of the
I'm looking at the cast list, Devin. I'm pretty sure it's Howard.
I know that it's Homer, but that's the more important point is I also forget that's the second in this movie because I think of Jed Rees in this movie as playing Snidely's LeVar, the guy that's like, maybe we should learn golf, like that guy.
Yeah, he's also
like,
yeah, it's weird because Homer is his number one in terms of like doing stuff, but he's also kind of like a Starscream, so he doesn't want to keep him around. So LeVar acts as his Shockwave, who is like not Shockwave, Soundwave, who was hopelessly devoted to what Snidely is doing. And like, just, we should probably start playing golf.
Yeah. There's so many people in this movie that are just giving. I mean, even Eric Idle is the stupid like prospector character. Like, there's a lot of really fun stuff in this movie and a lot of really dedicated people, and to see it kind of amount to just
nothing.
No fun.
Like it's all of these moments happen in Dudley Do-Right that like I loved this movie. I love this movie, but not as a whole. But there are moments in the movie where I'm like, the dance sequence where Nell is being like passed from Dudley to Snidely, that whole thing is wonderful. When Dudley Do-Right decides to become Dudley Do-Wrong, and he rides in on the motorcycle, and the violin players start doing I'm pretty sure it's a strings version of Born to Be Wild.
Yeah.
And then he pulls out the chainsaw and does the topiary. It's goofy, but like it is so the 90s reflection of the type of comedy that was on display in Dudley Do-Right.
It wants to be a 90s comedy and not a Dudley Do-Right movie.
Yes.
That's its problem, is it wants to take the facade of this Dudley Do-Right character and the like world that they live in, and then like apply like 90s slapstick, like we're not quite at the level of Leslie Nielsen comedy to this whole thing. And what worked for George of the Jungle is that it leaned into the comedy of George of the Jungle. So like the narrator, the funny animals, the physical shtick that's all present in George of the Jungle that works is funny is the magic that made George of the Jungle so beloved that you make a movie out of it. Dudley Do-Right, it's like they forgot that the reason they were doing this was because there was already a beloved IP that they should be paying attention to.
What Dudley Do-Right is a wonderful example of what we have been talking about since year one of the Say Report in terms of DC trying to be Marvel because, oh my God, look at all of the money they've made. Because this is Universal saying, look at all the money Disney made with George of the Jungle. Because George of the Jungle is a successful movie. So Universal doesn't just looks at what they have and says, oh my God, we have access to another J. Ward property because they have all the Rocky and Bullwinkle stuff. If you go to Universal Studios in Orlando, they have a whole section that is essentially Rocky and Bullwinkle land. And it's fun. It's a fun little moment there. The Dudley Do-Right ride at Universal Orlando is one of my favorite rides because it's a log flume, but also there's saws everywhere. It's scary. And it's always closed. Every time I go, it's closed. And a comedian friend of mine, his wife works there, but she's Olive Oil. I thought she was Nell, but Olive Oil is very close to the area where Rocky and Bullwinkle is because it's all that style of animation that lives there. It's their sort of Toontown.
It's their classic Toontown.
So Dudley, we have Dudley Do-Right. If we can get Brendan Fraser, we can just basically print fucking money. If we do the same thing that they did with George of the Jungle.
Yeah.
So they're chasing the monetary promise that George of the Jungle delivered, but without any of the heart or care that Disney allowed to be put into that movie. And that ultimately is what makes it a successful film. Yeah, that's but the crazier thing about it.
Sorry, I'm trying to find out if there's what our numbers are on Dudley Do-Right. I'm curious if it did better than I expected it to.
I think it made like $6 million. I don't think it did very well. But go find those numbers, because what I'll talk about is why they're weirdly movie twins after the fact. As somebody who came to this movie for the first time in 2022, you look at the fact that Brendan Fraser...
Skype has just overtaken my computer and is like, stop trying to do things that are not Skype.
That makes sense.
Like unmuting me as I'm like trying to do research. Like,
it's all right. Can't you mute your mic directly? I'm pretty sure I bought you the microphone.
CJ learns to use his equipment. Yeah. I just usually
you just do it in Skype. I understand that. But
it's just being rude.
Yeah. So 2022 coming to it, right? You have 2 J. Ward properties in George of the Jungle and Dudley Do-Right. You have Brendan Fraser playing the titular character. They take the love interest in both of them and make them a curly-haired blonde, which is not really a problem for George of the Jungle, but Nell Fenwick is very much a straight-haired has straight red hair.
This show's falling apart as we talk about Dudley Do-Right.
Which makes sense.
You weren't fucking kidding. It is a $10 million. It makes $10 million literally worldwide. There's no international numbers. I don't know if we were afraid to. Cowards, put it out in China, see what you get. But do you want to take a hard swing at the initial budget for Dudley Do-Right?
I believe it was an $18 million budget.
Oh, Dev.
Higher?
Oh, Dev.
34?
Oh, Dev.
52?
Oh, no, Dev.
78?
No. Oh, God. Oh, we passed it. There you go. It was a $70 million movie. And it didn't even break $10 million.
Fucking time out.
Yeah.
This movie does not look like it cost $70 million to make.
That's part of the thing for me, is there's no element of this movie that looks like anybody cared what they were doing on set except the acting. The acting is the only time. The costuming is all just bland. It looks like it's the old cartoon. I'll give it that, because the old Ward cartoons, literally Dudley's outfit is just like a red jacket with a yellow blur on his chest that is a badge. But they don't bother to do anything to make it look real, to bring it to life, to breathe any love into anything. The movie feels just kind of like a money grab through and through in that way, which is what's the unfortunate part.
Not only does it feel like a money grab through and through, it also feels like maybe money laundering. Like they knew, that's total fucking producer syndrome, Sejan. To spend $70 million on a movie with $10 million returns?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to ask where the money went.
There's no international numbers here, but pretty infamously, usually American films don't make more money internationally unless they're huge action movies. Then, in that case, the balance will flip.
And there's that really good motorcycle chase. I don't know.
So you said something earlier about something being scary, and I instantly in my head flashed the train scene in this movie. Snidely kills that banker, right? That dude dies, right?
I mean, yeah, banker's never seen again. After he signs it over, we don't see Snidely pick him up. So
it is a train coming at high speed.
It's a really big train,
a really big train. Yeah. And which I will point out in the real world is a terrifying, that is a scene from a horror film, right? And then he gets him to sign the paperwork, and it cuts so quick that there's no indication that he's going to do anything to help that guy up. And as you said, you never see him again.
Yeah, you never see him again. I can
tell, he kills that dude.
And also, why wouldn't you kill that dude?
Right.
Let's be honest. He signs the paperwork. You legally own it. If you leave him alive, he could go tell people what happened. Yeah. You let him die.
I mean, it was a horrific moment in this movie for me. I was just like, oh my God, this is actually not funny, guys. This guy getting tied to the train track, and like this is, and also that train is getting too close for this to be fun. All right, guys, calm down. And then all of a sudden it cuts, and I was like, what just happened?
What just
I was
happened?
surprised he didn't crash into that house covered in blood. Like, your house is mine now. What happened to you? Don't ask.
You must pay the rent. What are you
Oh my
covered
God.
in? You must pay the rent. But that looks like rent
Man.
now. But so you have that. It's weird that they take Nell Fenwick, who is known for her straight red hair, and that's one of the reasons she's desirable, is she's so exotic in the world of Dudley Do-Right because of that red hair. So they take that away, make her a curly-haired blonde, played by Sarah Jessica Parker, who...
You should clarify that you just mean within the realm of this, redheads are.
One of the reasons why
walking around talking about redheaded women being exotic is kind of a problematic way to go through life.
No, I'm working up a ZZ Top cover of Legs, but it's about reds.
Oh,
and
God.
I don't mean hot dogs. or the other joke from Fletch, but I'm not there. But yeah, it's one of those situations. No, I'm talking like in the show of Dudley Do-Right, whenever they talk about why Nell Fenwick is so desirable, they talk about her red hair. Like it's an important character trait to take it away from her.
Yeah, no, of
in
course,
order to match the look of Ursula from George of the Jungle. But then and then you have a horse named Horse and an ape named Ape. Which is just weird, right? Like, also, Jay Ward wasn't really putting in the time to build up these, like, new and unique worlds. But then the last one is that you have a Spider-Man villain in Thomas Hayden Church in George of the Jungle, and then Alfred Molina in Spider-Man 2. And it becomes even weirder when Louis D'Esposito is the assistant director on this film. And then he goes on to be the big producer on everything MCU from Iron Man on.
Yeah.
Like, it's so insane.
That's just showing you how incestuous Hollywood is.
Well,
but
yeah.
like Alfred Molina as Snidely, though, is some of the only times in this movie that I had any fun was him on screen having fun when he's like hunting vampires. With the shotgun in the sorry, go ahead.
The fact of the matter is, watching Brendan Fraser and Alfred Molina essentially in this community players version of a Dudley Do-Right script is fantastic. It is community theater, but we got two of the best actors from Hollywood to be in it.
It feels like it is rehearsal. I will give you that. That's what it feels like. It feels like they're wearing rehearsal costumes on a rehearsal set, getting ready to make the movie, and then like nobody told them, hey, by the way, this is the movie. So they're making choices with their lines. They're going places that I don't know if the line necessarily meant them to go, but hey, like you're sticking to it. And commitment is 90% of acting.
I feel like Hugh Wilson is director of this film in name only. Because so much of it is choices made by Alfred Molina and Brendan.
Somebody had to cue
in
the
those
planks.
moments. Yeah, I don't. But that moment, the moment you talk about where I mean, everything about the inciting action of this film, right? Because up until that point, you have Dudley sitting in his fort ordering pizzas from his mom and Snidely robbing banks. But the moment that brings these two back into each other's lives, because we're also told that they've been friends since childhood.
Now, I'm not going to pretend to be like a Dudley Do-Right expert. I do love me some Rocky and Bullwinkle and owned all of them on VHS because of a QVC purchase by my loving grandmother one day. But like I've seen a lot of Dudley Do-Right. I don't remember that part where they knew each other as young children.
No,
right?
that is new for the movie.
Film.
That is 100% new for the movie.
So what a weird dynamic to introduce, that the three of them, not just the two of them, but also Nell, right? Is like
that they're sort of a polyamorous relationship since they were 6 years old.
And there's like a weird Stephen King element to this, where like they were like, "What, blood brothers? We're gonna be this together, right?" And then they go their separate ways, but then have to come together to fight vampires in the future. I turned it off after the vampire conversation. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh wow, you missed a lot. How do you even know Eric Idle's in this film? So
Yeah.
you have no context for when I said to you, Regis and Kathy Lee?
Yeah, yeah. I still actually don't know if I have the full context for that, but no, I watched to the end. The
No.
Canadian Prime Minister shows up. I
Yeah.
have to
And she's married to Eric Idle.
for for honor. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, like that's the other thing is there's not even a lot of fun played with the idea that they're in Canada, right? And like there's all these elements to it that would have been so much funnier
In
if they
fact,
just
there's
leaned
a
into.
whole wonderful joke from Alfred Molina talking about Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And the fact that, well, Canadians are usually less impetuous. They like to think before they act. Americans aren't like that. So they make sure that you're not going to be like, where's the Canada part of this Canadian movie? By like,
Yeah.
we dealt with the Canadians in the beginning. Canadians are notoriously frightened of vampires. We introduce vampires as a credible threat from the mouth of a mounted police officer. So all the Canadians have left.
Yep.
So it's just
Yeah.
Americans who have come to this boom town that Snidely Whiplash is in charge of, the owner of. The plot of this movie is weirdly ingenious. Like, it is one of my favorite types of stories.
It is only one portion of Back to the Future 2. It's not even like the good stuff of Back to the Future 2, but it's basically Trump or whatever his nuts is in
Biff.
Yeah, Biff. Well, yeah, but becoming Trump.
Becoming
right?
Trump, yeah.
Yeah, in Back to the Future 2. Like that's basically what they're doing is that whole like he's gonna run the terrorist town or whatever it is they want to call it.
Yeah, well, but the way he does it, it's such a old school like Western plot of like we're salting the water so that people will think there's gold in them thar hills, and then they'll come live in our town and stimulate our economy.
Right.
Except for the fact that like they have to be buying that gold from the Manhattan Bullion Reserve, right?
Well, so like that's the thing about the gold rush that like yes, it did lead to a lot of criminal activity being going on and it did draw kind of some unsavory folks into areas across the country that were, panning for gold and stuff. But the reason that they were able to kind of elevate these towns and generate this kind of like reputation is because they were finding actual gold, and then what somebody did was figured out, well, now I'm going to figure out a way to funnel it all to me, and a lot of those operations are not going to necessarily be legal operations, but I'm eventually going to get that gold one way or another. Like his plan to trick everybody into buying up property and stuff like ends the second that people start trying to go out and go to work. But that's not what happens in this movie. In this movie, people seem to be pretty well off once they show up already, I guess.
Yeah, he sort of makes a resort town. It's not.
Yeah.
He creates a north of the border theme store, and everybody wants to go to Canada to spend their money and maybe find some gold. And like it's the weirdest plot, but it totally works for me in terms of like stupid kids movie plot. And then you have Alfred Molina.
So there is the threatening the banker. I'm just what I want to ask is, what actual illegal activity does he commit in this movie? Like, yes, okay,
he kills a dude.
He probably murders a dude, but by all accounts, in the movie, he kidnaps a dude and has him sign the rights over to these towns, right? To the
land, to the mortgages.
That's the crime, right? Because other than that, everything else he does in this movie is just him just like spending money. Like it's so weird. He doesn't go in and like blackmail people out of their businesses to like get them, right?
No, he owns the unlike
he owns stuff.
What?
Like, he buys things. He like it's such a weird for an evil plot. Like the only evil part of it is that he forces the bank to sign over stuff, which didn't have to be through like kidnapping, but like that's the one thing they have him do that is kind of illegal to establish that the rest of this stuff that he's doing is also just as bad. And you're like, no, though, not really. Like, yes, that one thing is, and that should be the thing that Dudley goes after him for. But as you mentioned earlier, that's actually never brought up again.
The only evil thing that Snidely Whiplash does in this movie is capitalism.
Yeah.
This is an anti-capitalism movie through and through. Because what Snidely Whiplash is like the bank, it has these mortgages, but like it's not calling in the money that is due from the owners. Snidely Whiplash is coming in like any sort of corporate entity and being like, well, you owe us this money for your land, and if you can't pay it, I'm going to seize it back from you. And the people can't pay it, so then he owns the land, thus he owns the property on the land, thus he owns the town. And really, he's just a savvy businessman.
Yeah, it's weird.
I think
it's
there
not
might
that
be.
he's not a bad guy.
Yeah, he's
there's
definitely
this feeling that like there's this feeling that like the mob shows up and they're just like, do you know what's going on? He's buying up all of our property and forcing us out. And like, yeah, what's a mounted police officer supposed to do about that?
Yeah, he owned it though, right? Like he gave the money for the property. Now we know that he didn't. What he did was he blackmailed and murdered a man to own the rights to everything in the town of Semi-Happy Valley. But
it's weird because the other movie that I watched this week, and this is gonna be something we're gonna have to talk about after Brendan Fraser History Month, because we're gonna have to do a whole thing on it. But I watched Paddington 2.
Oh, okay.
We actually watched both Paddingtons this week.
Wonderful.
But in Paddington 2, there is a moment where they go to the police and they say, like, for anybody that doesn't know, Paddington 2 is about he gets falsely accused of a crime and has to go to prison, and it's really cute. I'm not even kidding.
It's the cutest prison movie ever.
But so the family is trying to prove that he's innocent, right? And they go to the police with a bunch of circumstantial information. And the police officer is very honest with them and is like, look, I feel like what you're trying to do here, and if you can bring me A, B, or C, then we can maybe talk about how this is a legal issue. But everything you've described so far is just about a man living his life. You can't tell me that this is that you can't expect me to go and get like arrest somebody for that. And it was like a real moment in that movie where I was just like, yeah, I mean that sucks, but yeah. In this movie, that like there's no concept of that. The Royal Mounted Police are seen as like the fucking like Texas Rangers of Canada, who are allowed to just go in and break any law that they feel they need to break in the name of bigger laws that they need to protect. It's fucking wild. Like you mentioned earlier that this felt like it was trying to be like kind of like a Western with its plot, and I think in a lot of ways there's this like weird element to it where it's trying to be a spoof on like the old Western stories of expansion, but like it just doesn't. That's not funny to us, especially not in 1999.
No, it's like that's
not a funny thing to like harp on.
It's really strange. There might be some law on the books about falsifying mineral claims that way. I don't think you can actually, it's called salting. And I think salting like an area with something valuable, there is some legal precedent for that being wrong. But I don't.
Yeah, I'm not asking for this movie to like dive into like the legalities of like the gold rush and stuff like that. I don't need a.
But this movie does. That's what I was going to lead into. Is
right.
There's that beautiful moment where Eric Idle's Kim Darling takes him to the apparition, and he goes, "Well, there's 3 reasons why we can't do it, and if you'll allow me, I'd like to start with the second. Second, if we go down there, they'll kill us. First, you're not a Mountie anymore. And third, what they're doing is not illegal."
Yeah.
Like there's no legality being broken here. All they're doing is melting down gold and then putting that gold in places where people can find that gold.
Yeah.
The people who break the law are the parade of Cannonball Run-esque cars that hop the Canadian border.
Oh man. It's wild to me what is framed as the evil of this movie through the lens that Snidely is evil. Like I don't want to act like I don't think he's a bad guy. He definitely is. But because he's a bad guy, that automatically makes everything he does just bad. Despite the fact that it is without question, it is such a black and white way of looking at the world, and part of that comes from the content before it, right? But this would be the only place where it pays any of that kind of like where it pays any of that kind of respect in that regard, because otherwise this movie is perfectly happy to throw everything else out about Dudley Do-Right. I guess my thing is if you're gonna make those kinds of changes, if you're gonna try and evolve the original story, then go all the way with it. like if they're gonna be friends when they were younger, then make it so that him and Snidely are closer when they've grown up, and that there is this element to it where Snidely doesn't necessarily think what he's doing is the bad thing. Like he's trying to bring people to the town, and as far as I can tell, he just wants to be in charge of it. He doesn't want to like destroy it. Everybody else is welcome to be there as long as they work within his system. Now his system sucks, and that has to be the lesson. But like, it's not even that. There's this weird idea where he both wants to run this town and run everybody out of it at the same time, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's when everybody turns on him in that moment where he like tries to vilify Dudley Do-Right. It's like, you had them. They were doing everything you wanted to do, and you had a little paradise here, and then you let your like anger at this one dude get in your way, and it's because that's what has to happen. But what this movie really taught me, the message that I took away from this movie, is that inside of all of us there are two wolves, and one of those wolves is Dudley Do-Right, and the other one is Snidely Whiplash. And you can fill in the rest of the metaphor from there. But it does. It honestly feels as
You've created a metaphorical paradox, by the way, and nobody else is going to pick up on it, I don't think. But
that's the reason why I take it away from the movie. Thank you, CJ. But that's the issue, is that this film is paradoxical in the way that it tries to teach you the message that inside of us there are these two people, but those two people are actually very similar to one another. I don't know. I don't know what this movie is trying to do, other than the fact that Brendan Fraser and Alfred Molina definitely came to set ready to act. They came there.
Jessica Parker. We can't deny that also Sarah Jessica Parker, despite not necessarily loving her character in this movie, still like has some really fun moments in it. The physical stuff she does with Fraser is really fun.
Well, I was hoping to bring up this next part of the movie before we celebrate Nell Fenwick, and that's the fact that Dudley Do-Right might be the most racist film I've ever seen.
So far. If you're going to talk about the ways in which the natives peoples are treated in this movie, I'm not sure what the right term would be for Canada, to be honest. Indigenous?
The indigenous population is what they could. Because one of the goofs on this is the fact that they call it a reservation, but it's reserves in Canada. So it's very clearly an American who's writing the script and also just doing no dramaturgy work.
Well, because then on top of that, the costuming and things like that are just super offensive because none of that dramaturgical work is done there either. So like if we're gonna focus on that, like yes, there is definitely. But stay tuned this month, folks, because there's more of that to come.
Is there? It's Brendan Fraser, right? He was in Crash, right?
But yeah, the ways in which that stuff is treated in this movie is horrendous, I think is the best word.
Horrendous is the perfect word for it. I mean, and what I was going to, like, I almost mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to introduce the fact that the racism in this film is thick and it is heavy. And you've already experienced it before this moment happens, but after all those cars run the border, there's like a blink and you miss it moment where a border agent says that it's a bunch of wetbacks who are coming into Canada. That is like, it's 7 fucking layers of 3D chess to like figure out the joke that they're trying to make that they fail to make. Because why would Canadians refer to Americans as the derogative term that Americans use for people from Mexico who come into the country illegally?
Yeah, or Cuba, but the term being focused on the idea that they had to swim to get here. Yeah, right. Like
it's just, I mean, what the hell was that? And it is like, it's so quick that like they only got it like through. Nobody was like, oh, you can't put that in there. First of all, I don't think anybody in the 90s would have an issue with that joke. But also, it's just like, it's so quick, nobody's going to notice. But I noticed it both times, and I'm just like, what an absurd joke. And then the person who has to sit there and laugh at it is Alfred Molina. So then I feel bad for Alfred Molina, based on his heritage, that like, oh, I get to laugh at this wetback joke. Good for me. Like, I just... like that moment right there. And there's a lot of upsetting moments in this, like the fact that the indigenous people of Canada are all South Brooklyn Italians. And like, I love Alex Rocco and I love Lou Mastillo, but it's fucking weird.
Well, so I feel like, look, this is us struggling to address racism is a classic say report trope. So I'm not gonna get any better at it here, folks. But here we go, because it has to be addressed, right? I think that what they're attempting to hearken to is the ways in which in the 60s and 70s, that is what you did. If you wanted to show indigenous peoples in your American made film, you got Italians, you got Mediterranean people, you got these people from other parts of the world that looked different, and so that counted, which is so upsetting and problematic because of the mere fact that, like, no, these people are the least likely to be from another place. Like, it's just the as you put it earlier, the 3D chess that they fail to win, like, is on full display here with this, because they're trying to hearken to this idea, and I don't know if they're making fun of it or embracing it. Because, you know what I mean? Like, if they're saying, well, Dudley Do-Right was from a time, and this is what they would have done in that time. Well, right, but we don't do that now. Oh, no, we're trying to highlight that this is what they did at that time. Oh, okay. To what end? What's your message? Well, that they did it at this time. And it's just like, no, that can't be your only reason for doing this can't be because this is the thing that they used to do. But it feels like that is their reason for doing this. It's just because this is the thing that they used to do. And it's just like, it's a fucking, like, snake eating itself, and it can't finish fast enough as far as I'm concerned.
Where it falls on its face for me, personally, my personal journey, is Cannibal the Musical exists. And Cannibal the Musical highlights exactly what you're talking about in such a beautiful way by having all of the Asian actors playing the Native Americans when they come across them. But then also, like, doing that wink to the camera, like, we're fully aware that we did this, and, like, maybe there's something more nefarious there. That these Asian people are just pretending to be Native Americans to, I don't know, spy on our country. Like, they actually play the 3D chess correctly, where we're hearkening back to the fact that in Westerns, this is the shit that we allowed them to do. This is what we let Hollywood do. But then we're doing it by going to the absurdist freaking level of it. Because they don't even talk like stereotypical Native Americans in Hollywood films. Like, they just, like, put them on there on display. It works there, but it works there because there's intelligence and there's heart behind that joke. It doesn't work in Dudley Do-Right because they just do it, and the way that they kind of try to wave it away is with the fact that maybe this is just a resort from the Catskills that has a sister project in Canada as a dinner theater. Because they make the joke like, we're essentially a dinner theater. And it's like, I kind of get that as the bit, right? If this is Jack Kellerman from frickin' Dirty Dancing's Canada property.
Yeah, no, but we addressed this a lot with the Adam Sandler stuff, and that was kind of what I was hinting at, is what we're going to probably be seeing more this month of this exact same thing there too. But that idea of, like, going to Hawaii, going to Africa, and then seeing the native show, and, like, the joke at some point being like, this is something that we just do for the white people, is always a great joke. But at the end of the day, that joke has been done so many times. We need to move past that. Yay! It's a too easy signal that we're being, air quotes, progressive about this particular issue. We're allowed to do this because we're making a commentary on it. But if the commentary you're making is the same one that's been made by a dozen other people, at this point you're adding nothing to the conversation, and you're just using it as an excuse to just be racist again. And that's what's going on here. It feels like it's using that old joke, and it doesn't work because that joke is at this point too fucking old.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Maybe that's 2022 Siegen talking. I don't know. Maybe
no, it doesn't. It doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't work in 1999 because they call themselves Indians, and even then we had tried to move away from that phrase for Native people. That
incorrect phrase for Native people. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I don't get it. I love that Alex Rocco is in Dudley Do-Right. I love that a man who was in The Godfather is in this movie. And he even puts on his Godfather glasses so that, like, your parents who took you to see Dudley Do-Right because you wouldn't shut up about it would be like, oh, hey, look, it's the guy who got shot in the masseuse table. Spoilers for The Godfather.
Right. But there's this idea that, like, there is this idea that they want you to be aware of what they're doing, but then they're not telling you what it is they mean by it. Like, they think just the mere act of pointing it out is enough to be like, I don't know, like it's not funny. It's not funny, and it's just mean. It's just really mean.
Yeah, I don't know, but I love Lou Mastillo as well. Like, I saw his name and I'm like, oh, he's gonna be fun. And he is one of the only characters in this whole movie who's like aware of everything that's happening in the film. I don't know. I see a guy in a Abe Lincoln hat, opera coat. He's shooting at rocks. He's shooting at rivers. That doesn't seem weird to you? Standing room only is his character name. Like, it's just, oh my goodness. But I do want to highlight there. First of all, Adam Shankman did all the choreography in this film. The dance numbers are amazing. Go on YouTube and just watch the dance numbers in this film. I'm impressed by every single one of them. Like, it doesn't change the fact that there's inherent racist undertones to almost all of them, but they are very well choreographed dance sequences in this film that I don't think anybody was asking for dance sequences in their Dudley Do-Right movie.
Yeah, that's really more where I fall.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I wasn't really paying attention to them because as far as I was concerned, there was no reason for them to be there. But sure. Yeah.
But they're good. They're very good. They're well done. They're beautiful Adam Shankman choreographed moments. And
can art be good when it is not contextualized?
When it's unnecessary?
Like, yeah. I don't know. Ponder that one. Rhode Island's neither a road nor an island. There you go.
Discuss amongst yourselves.
Dudley Do-Right has got me burned out now.
And let's wait till the movie we watch next week. Maybe you won't be so upset with me that we're watching Brain Candy
So here's what I'm gonna say. In preparation for the month that is to come, right? Like, we really did talk about leaning into the idea of, like, Fraser style family movies, right? Like, the ways in which he's really kind of, and when we said family movies, we've done movies in the past that were family oriented, Journey to the Center of the Earth and Inkheart and stuff like that, The Mummy even. But this idea being that this is a particular type of movie that when we say family movie, we mean like the one that grandma would buy for you from Walmart for Christmas because, well, you liked George of the Jungle. I assumed you'd like Dudley Do-Right. So here you go, right? Like, it's that style of film that every actor dips into eventually. And let's be honest, we were putting off a lot with Brendan Fraser. So you have this one, and that's the perfect example of that. Next week, we're doing Sinbad, Beyond the Veil of Mists. Of the Mists. I did it, like, it's such a weird...
It's such a weird title. Yeah.
And next week is going to be the one that I will probably have to take responsibility for and apologize, much like I'm making Devin do for Brain Candy. Which is not part of this formula, by the way, for anybody trying to do that math. But Dudley Do-Right, Sinbad, Furry Vengeance, and then eventually Escape from Planet Earth. Like, I'm not looking forward to these movies in terms of quality. I'm looking forward to these movies in terms of, like, getting them under my belt in talking about Brendan Fraser, and specifically nowadays with, like, the resurgence of him, right? And the realization that even in a movie like Dudley Do-Right, dude's putting the work in.
Yeah.
And that's always been on point.
Yeah. And that's why he should be celebrated, is that he is always going in and giving 110% in whatever thing he's doing. Because you finally evoked the name that I've been, like, skirting around and didn't want to jump into yet with The Mummy. The Mummy is coming. This movie is pre-Mummy.
Mm-hmm.
And
he is pre-Mummy.
He looks so goddamn much like Rick O'Connell in this film. The specific moment is when Snidely Whiplash pretends to be a vampire to scare Horse away, and then he comes out with a Tommy gun in just a white shirt with suspenders. Like, it's like, oh my God, Rick is in this movie? That's my response to that sequence. Because he looks so goddamn much like Rick O'Connell. Clearly, he's either coming from shooting The Mummy or he's going to go shoot The Mummy, and they're like, no, we like your hair from Dudley Do-Right.
Is 99 Fraser's 1994?
Well, it is. Yeah, actually, it definitely is.
He has The Mummy, Dudley Do-Right, and Blast from the Past. And two of them are iconic roles for him, and one of them is just a weird retrospective on his career.
Yeah, and a weird reflection on what the world was like at the time, where we were finding humor. Yeah, no, 99 is definitely Fraser's 94 for Jim Carrey. And I wasn't prepared for it because in my mind, Dudley Do-Right has always been a 1998 movie. I mean, even Amazon credits it as 1998, but it didn't release until 99. And that's crazy to me. That like, and all of the copyright is 99. So I don't know why Jeff Bezos and his crew was like, no, this is a 1998 movie. But then you read that this movie was completed and set to be released for 98, but then was held back to be released in celebration of 40 years of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, and Amazon might have some weird rules about like when movies are, who knows, like copyrighted or some nonsense. Yeah, it's a weird one to go back and look at for his, and all of these are going to be, I guess is what I'm getting at, is like strap in, folks, because like we're going to be looking at these movies that are not always going to be the easiest ones to watch this year, which is rare because usually we use this opportunity to dive into these movies. Although I think our sequel fest kind of became this unexpectedly. But this idea that like the one thing that you can hang your hat on in all of these is that we guarantee you that you're going to watch these movies and you're going to be like, man, what a weird fucking movie, but Brendan Fraser at least is doing something in it, and like that is what is going on here, is like watching this movie and seeing, and not just him, like seeing Alfred Molina and Sarah Jessica Parker and all of the side actors that we mentioned and more. Like people are showing up and putting the work in to have fun working on these movies, and then that doesn't always mean that the movie's going to amount to a success. And what does that mean, right? Is like, because this movie was a financial bomb, like an actual, this might be, for the Say Report, the worst performing film we've ever talked about in any context. Special episodes, like time capsules, Brendan Fraser History Month. Like the idea that this was a $70 million budget and didn't even scrape together $10 million domestically is like,
it's next level. It is next level.
Next level failure for movie. And and the weird thing is that I don't hear people talk about Dudley Do-Right as like a major flop in any way. They would be right if they did, clearly, but like often I hear this movie talked about as like the so-so movie that they saw because they like George of the Jungle, and they weren't pissed they saw it, but they have no desire to ever see it again, is the general feel people have of this movie, which I would, for those kinds of box office numbers, is like mind-blowing to me that you don't hear more people just getting in on the joke to just shit on it.
Yeah. I mean, we leapt out of the gate with Brendan Fraser History Month pretty much looking at the big ones, the ones that everybody likes. So it's not like the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe where people come to us and like, oh, have you covered this movie yet? And maybe we haven't because of the weird way that we approach it. But for 4 years into it, someone to come up to me and be like, when are you guys going to do Dudley Do-Right? Like, that's the Brendan Fraser movie I think about. And like, well, yeah, we can't do it this year. We have that one set and we know what we're doing next year, but I will commit to you that we will watch it for year 6 of Brendan Fraser. And that person being excited, and like, I met up with them a couple of weeks ago and he's like, oh, it's year 6 of Brendan Fraser. You guys are finally doing Dudley Do-Right. Like, this is not a movie based that doesn't have fans, that doesn't have people who are like clamoring to hear our take on it. Mm-hmm. And knowing what I now know about it, I'm surprised that they're out there. I'm surprised that this isn't something that we hold up. And what I actually finally take it as is an indication of what filmmaking was in the 90s. Because we would allow a movie like this to happen and that not completely destroy someone's career, right? Yeah. This is a career-ending film. And Brendan Fraser, the same year, goes on to release 2 beloved films in his entire filmography with The Mummy and Blast from the Past. Sarah Jessica Parker, this is released a year after the first season of Sex and the City, and we still get 6 more and a movie, 2 movies, and a follow-up requel
Yeah.
And
I mean,
another
and you know,
thing,
and she
like,
goes on to do other, right, and that's just Sex in the City, which she turns into just a fucking a beast of a franchise. But like, but she does other work as well, and you know, production work, behind the scenes work as well. Like she ends up becoming extremely prolific, right? And Alfred Molina is no
and
slouch,
Alfred
you know,
Molina
like
is Dr. Octopus in 2004. So it's 5 years from this, but also in 99 he plays the only role I remember from Boogie Nights, which Rick Springfield, he's a buddy of mine. I love that guy. That guy's fucking crazy. That guy is so crazy. There's a whole character devoted to him in American Dad. So Alfred Molina, he doesn't stop. He goes on to continue acting, and not just like small stuff, but big things that you know Alfred Molina from.
right.
So it's this movie. If this movie were released in 2022, which it first of all never would be, right? Someone would look at this movie and say, this is hyper racist. Maybe you can dump it to the streaming services, but honestly, do you want the streaming service to fail? And Netflix goes, yeah, why not? We already have it. Sorry. But if it were to release, this is the type of thing that would end people's careers, regardless of how good they're in it. Just the way that it fails to perform monetarily is enough to end everyone's career.
Yeah.
And that's not what happens with it. And that's insane to me.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah. Fucking Dudley Do-Right. Like, I'm not gonna tell people to see this movie, I don't think. It's not one I feel like you need to see.
Yeah, this is only for the Brendan Fraser completionists.
But
No, you know what? Not just Brendan Fraser completionists. It's definitely for Brendan Fraser completionists. But if you're an Alfred Molina completionist and you want to see him just chew up scenery like it is made out of Weetabix, this is the movie to watch. Alfred Molina is on fire in this film. That Puerto Rico joke is so good, and it honestly just feels like him improvising on set. And him not knowing that a camera is on him. Because then he goes to LeVar, did you like the way I said Puerto Rico back there? And he's like, yeah, I did. And he's like, yeah, you know, I speak a little bit of Spanish. And then the camera just like kind of trails off. Like, oh, I caught that moment. They didn't know their mics were hot. Like,
oh man.
I don't know how this movie cost $70 million. I no idea how this was a $70 million movie.
Maybe that's wrong. Maybe
it includes marketing too, because we don't know how that
first. But yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know how like budgets from them were not as widely reported on as they were like in the 2000s and going forward.
I mean, especially in the late 90s,
Yeah.
working for Universal, people cooking some books is kind of par for the course.
Yeah.
Oh man,
But yeah, so
Hollywood
that's it.
budgeting.
Yes. So that's Dudley Do-Right. Welcome to the 6th year of Brendan Fraser History Month with the Say Report. Is there anything else you want to add before we give the people a little idea of what's coming next, Sejan?
No, I mean, like, I think we're kind of entering the summer times here, and there's going to be a little bit of a dip in releases of all sorts of things. Looking forward to Doctor Strange next week, though. So
Yep. So that's what you have to look forward to, right? If you do want to go out and watch Sinbad Beyond the Veil of the Mists, go ahead and do it. We're still going to be talking about it. But also Doctor Strange, right? There should be some Doctor Strange in next week's episode, and that's something to be excited about.
you got my Strange and my Sinbad.
You got Sinbad in My Strange. Sinbad in My Strange sounds like the least desirable sex tape from the 90s. Right? Like...
Well, obviously, it would have been Rukmini and Sinbad, right?
Yes, of course. And more than likely, people would remember it as the movie Shazam. But yeah, so, okay. Now, what you're looking at, you're looking at your listening device, and you're saying to yourself, well, it sounds like this is when they usually wrap up the episode, right, Sejan?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot what we were doing. Man, I'm excited now.
Yeah. So, yeah, usually this is when it wraps up. I say, is there anything else that you want to add? And then we give our Twitter information and all that happens. But we're doing something else really special for this Brendan Fraser History Month. And what is that thing that we're doing that's super special? We have conscripted our Quizmaster General Will Fournier to write for us a multi-round quiz. And rather than give you all of that quiz in one episode, we decided to like sort of parse out our time with Will in each episode, right?
Yeah, so get prepared, because over the next month you're going to get some little bits of our quizzing, our gaming with Will, and I think we're going to do part 1 now.
Yeah, so right now, thank you for listening to this, and now we're going to lead into part 1, round 1, which is Meet Your Fraser. And like any good Canadian non-vampire knows, Brendan Fraser's middle name is... Sejan, do you not know?
Oh, I thought you were throwing. I thought that was your throw. I was letting you throw it to the quiz.
No, I was trying to reference Dudley Do-Right one more time before we throw it. Do you know Brendan Fraser's middle name?
William, right?
Yeah. I think it's Douglas. No, wait, that's Wayne Gretzky's middle name. Man, are we not Brendan Fraser fans from Canada? Well, we're not from Canada, so I guess that covers us. Right? Yeah. All right. So here it is. Round 1, Meet Your Fraser. And I hope you enjoy it, and we will see you next week for more. Bye now. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to part 2 of this episode of the Say Report. I'm not really sure. I probably should have put more thought into it. You've just come from our first episode celebrating Brendan Fraser History Month, where we talked about Dudley Do-Right, the movie that I promised to finally watch and talk about once we got to year 6, celebrating Brendan Fraser History Month. And now we're here, we're doing something new. And before I tell you what that is, I should probably introduce who else is here with me. It's an episode of the Say Report, so you know you got my host companion, Sejan Sarowick.
Hey, everybody. And called shot. Devin liked this movie.
Yeah, also we are recording this out of space and time so that we can do it. And we'll explain why in a bit. Also, just for everyone's, sense of spacing, Sejan is to my left right now, because that's where I pointed. Which means if you'll turn your attention to my right, you'll see we have a guest here today. And Siege, do you want to introduce him? I think you should introduce our guest. It's not Brendan Fraser.
It is. Okay, I was gonna say, you're building this up.
I realized what I did. So.
Hey everybody, we have the one and the only. I was about to call you Billiam.
I'll take it.
Yeah, but Will is here.
Oh, hey everybody. I'm waving, which is, if you look to Devin's right, you'll see me waving.
Right, and that's Sejan's left, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
that
works.
We're in a triangle-esque.
Holding hands.
Obviously, with a
we're all close enough to hold hands. We've all been vaccinated, and have you been boosted, Will? I don't know if boosted have gotten over. Excellent.
Yeah, I boosted. I've had the spicy cough, so I think as immune as I can be right now from everything.
Everything.
Basically superhuman. I also would like to say, Devin, I enjoyed in your intro there, or the re-intro, you sounded very unsure about the name of the show, where you went, welcome back to the Say Report?
Because
that was a question, I don't know where we are.
I've never had to throw to myself before. So, if you've never thrown to yourself before, how can you be prepared to catch from yourself?
Yeah.
And I didn't know. Yeah,
fair. I throw to myself, if I am a guest on this show, I do often throw to myself at the end.
Yeah.
But also I'm throwing to a pre-record of myself, so it's slightly easier.
We are showing you how all of the sausage is made, apparently, in this episode right here. Or this part of an episode. It's also, weird. What we're doing, I said that this April I wanted to be more experimental. And the truth of the matter is I just have not done that at all.
No. So you're taking the opportunity here in May to completely rework the structure of how we record the show.
But really what we're doing, and it's not the show, this is just for Brendan Fraser History Month. I love having Will on in Brendan Fraser History Month. It's awesome. We get to do a quiz. Everybody else seems to enjoy it too, having Will here. So rather than just do one episode with Will, we thought, why not get the three of us together in a triangle holding hands and do a quiz and then cut that quiz up into delectable, digestible things and slap it on the end of your regularly scheduled Say report.
The board sounds like it's a satanic ritual where we're summoning the Dark Lord Quizbo. Come to us with a quiz.
I mean, I don't know how you guys do things in the America, but that's how we always quiz in the UK.
No, kind of just summon up a quick bud to come up and bring you some questions. That explains why I've had such a hard time with these. It's because I'm a good boy.
Yeah, you are basically the best of us. I would probably be the worst of us, making Mario, well, Will Mario.
I didn't know where you were going with that. Making Mario.
Because like suddenly Mario's involved.
It has nothing to do with this.
It was Super Mario Brothers 2. I think we've done it before. We're all Athos. That's all that matters. We're all Athos, and that's what matters.
One for all and all for the same one.
Guys, can you believe that the Say Report has already recorded 2 episodes about How I Met Your Father?
Oh, man.
And one of them you probably haven't listened to yet because it's out of space and time. But I can't believe that How I Met Your Father already happened in 2022.
Yeah, it's been a while, actually. It's been over for a bit now.
Yeah.
Well, this is dangerous because I may still be behind or up to date. I'm not sure because we're getting them weirdly released in.
Oh.
It says weekly, but I don't believe it. Because I check and it's not there. Then suddenly it's randomly, oh, there's 2 more episodes and I don't know where they came from. So
do you remember the name of the last episode that posted?
It was called How I Met Your Father.
Just what?
You want more information?
Yeah, I want the episode title, not the show title.
Oh well, hang on a second. This is changing everything I was thinking of doing.
Oh man!
Let me just quickly. You guys vamp while I quickly research.
So throws you off your game. Just go with it.
So yeah, we are here. We're putting them together. So Will has assured me that he's put together 5 rounds of trivia, so that we can do a round and then attach that round to the end of the episode, and that'll be fun and it'll work out. And we'll have more celebration of Brendan Fraser History Month, which is, I think, what everybody wants out of their May, right?
It was called The Perfect Shot. The Perfect Shot.
The Perfect Shot.
So there's 2 more.
So there's 2 left. Yeah, there's 9 and 10. Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect Shot. I mean, like, shit's about to go off in Australian How I Met Your Father.
Like, you meet Mom yet? I forget. Why are we talking about How I Met Your Father again? We can't. I'm not letting this happen. I'm putting a stop to it.
Because it was the last time that Will was on the show. That's all I was going to talk about.
Flamingo.
Flamingo is that always the safe word now? You have no imagination?
We haven't discussed a different one, and we wouldn't change it without discussing it.
That's true, because consent is important. Consent is important. I don't know why I tried to make a joke out of it.
I don't know why that became a joke.
That's just a very good statement to make.
Yeah, consent is important. So yes, he flamingoed. We'll stop talking about How I Met Your Father, but Will, I'm going to want to talk to you IRL, no microphone in front of you, to see what you think about what's about to happen. Because it's about to go off.
The thing has happened. The thing that we were all waiting for to happen has just happened.
Yes.
So that's fine.
Okay.
Well, I mean...
I don't know. Siegen was waiting for a different thing.
Siegen called Flamingo, and I don't know if we can have this conversation anymore. But I'm really curious, because the thing I was waiting for was the breakup with Drew, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Because he was never going to last.
Yeah, he wasn't in any of the promotional material until he was suddenly. All right, but we got to stop talking about How I Met Your Father, because Siegen asked us very kindly to. And as soon as someone revokes their consent, that's when you stop. I don't know why I'm turning it into this. Will, why don't you give us a rundown?
All right, so what we're going to do, we've got, we're going to start with 4 different styled quizzes I've written for you guys. And then the 5th one will be used as a tiebreaker because I'm guessing it's going to be 2-2 by the end of things. Siegen, I've got faith in you. 2-2. So we're going to need that 5th one to separate the wheat from the chaff and the possibly Canadian from the awkwardly something else. I couldn't remember the quote halfway through, and I feel bad.
The boys from the men? Where were you?
No, it's a dodgeball quote, and I can't remember the full line. But anyway.
I don't remember it either. I knew the joke you were going for, but I'm like, I can't bail him out here. Hopefully he remembers.
He'll come back to me in about half an hour, and I'll suddenly shout it out, and everyone will be confused. Welcome to the Say Report.
That's how we record all of our shit.
Yes, it's fine. You need to remember things halfway down the line and go, it was this, and then everyone goes, oh.
Nothing like a hot shower to jog your memory.
Yeah, so in like 3 days' time, when you get a text from me with a quote in it, that's what it was.
That I can't wait for 3 days from now, which was 4 days ago from when this releases.
I mean, yeah, 4 days ago, but with my time zone, it was 5 days ago.
Yep, it's fun. It's a good time what we're having. So what round?
Are we like avoiding the quiz? Okay.
What round of trivia did you decide to deliver to us, Quizmaster General William Fournier, to go hand in hand with Dudley Do-Right?
I'm going to give you guys a choice. It's always nice to have choices. So we've got one round, which is just a general welcome to Brendan trivia. Question, like, normal question response stuff. Or we can go with a round where I found 6 real life quotes from Brendan himself, not his movie quotes, his actual things he said. And I've taken out some words, and it's a fill in the blank style.
Okay.
Game.
All right.
So,
First of all, we hired you as our Quizmaster General so that we wouldn't have to make choices, just answer questions. I mean, that'd be real fucked up if Ken Jennings was like, hi, I'm here as a host of Jeopardy! I'd like you to decide on the categories before I give you the answers.
Y'all just want to skip to Double Jeopardy?
Why don't we just do Final Jeopardy?
I'm way more Aaron Rodgers about things. And
well, I've heard of this one, and now you're smarter than a 5th grader. Doing what I want. Aaron Rodgers. Actually, that's a damn good.
That was a pretty solid Aaron Rodgers. I like to imagine that the alternate universe where Siegen and Devin, instead of focusing on Adam Sandler's cinematic universe, focused on Brendan Fraser's cinematic universe. In that universe, Aaron Rodgers is now the host of Jeopardy, with Ken Jennings coming in whenever he's too busy.
With just as many problems as Bialik.
That was pretty much the joke there, Siege. Thank you.
Oh.
All right.
I didn't get it until I said.
Also, initially, when you said Ken Jennings, I didn't listen, and I heard Ken Jeong, and I was like, "Wow, he's the host."
Yep. He hosts everything now.
Was terrible. Well, going back to the Masked Singer conversations.
Yeah.
Walked off a Masked Singer and right over to Jeopardy.
They shoot in the same building.
I'm gonna throw down for the Brendan Fraser quotes.
I was gonna throw down for the welcome because it's the first round. So, Will, I guess you're gonna have to decide.
All right, I think my view was in line with Devin's, so we will go with the welcome to Brendan Fraser.
Kind of making the last 10 minutes completely pointless. Yeah, let's do it.
Yes, welcome to the Say Report. Let's do this. All right, let's just roll straight in. Question 1.
Ooh.
If you guys have got pens and paper and all those usual things we ask for in this trivia rounds. Or a phone, you can write notes on it.
Siegen, please tell me you have a pen and paper. You asked me what you needed for this, and I said a pen and a paper.
I, in fact, have a paper. I have a notebook and a pencil. It's not a pen. Is that okay?
That's fine.
I mean,
arrogant people do it in ink, so...
Well, way to be humble, Siegen. Good work.
Yeah, I have humility.
Yeah, that after 275 episodes of the Say Report, do you think I even know the definition of the word humility?
Oh, man.
All right, Will. All right. The floor is yours.
Question number 1. We'll start off with 1 just to get you guys warmed up. Who did Brendan Fraser marry in September 1998? Just easy rolling in, gentle. Get you warmed up.
I don't think my answer's right, but it's what I want it to be.
I didn't even know Brendan Fraser was married at any point in his life.
I feel like I say this every year.
Yeah, I mean, so far, spot on for the whole trend of trivia.
I'd admit that I don't know, but,
Question 2. What is Brendan Fraser's middle name?
So if we wanted to go back and do the fill in the blanks, I'd support that now.
Oh, it's coming. Don't worry. You can just pick your favorite name. I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
He might.
I mean, does he listen? I don't know. Now I feel bad. We can hope he listens. I'm
He's
pretty
been
sure he
listening after all this.
I would like to think so. I mean, we're kind of directly responsible for the Brendaissance. So
look, I am not going to take responsible for that because the man himself is responsible.
Well, he is responsible for that. The work that Brendan Fraser has done in the years since we started celebrating Brendan Fraser History Month has almost made the fact that we're celebrating the history of Brendan Fraser moot. So, maybe that's his middle name, Brendan Moot Fraser.
Because he's just such a casual human. He went with moot. He picked it himself. Question 3. I feel we're ready for it. On the set of The Mummy, Brendan Fraser was legally dead for how many seconds? It was a stunt that went wrong. It wasn't just a prank he did.
He got hung, didn't he?
He got hung accidentally as a stunt rope tightened around his neck. And he was, as they put it weirdly in this thing, legally dead.
His heart stopped. That's wait. Well, that was his brain stopped, right? Legally dead. What does that mean?
Well, yeah, they brought up a whole scary thing of being illegally dead, and I wasn't sure what had happened. But no, he was legally dead for how many seconds?
We're the corpse police. You're under arrest. You're illegally dead.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds tried really hard in that movie.
Legally Dead? Wasn't that a Reese Witherspoon movie? What am I thinking of?
Are you thinking of Just Like Heaven?
Yep, there it is. I was thinking of Just Like Heaven. Devin had it.
Not Legally Blonde.
Nope.
Yeah.
The Reese Witherspoon remake of Ghost Dad. Spoilers for both of those movies.
It's a much better movie than Ghost Dad for so many reasons.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo. And
Yes.
no Bill Cosby.
There it is.
There we go. It's 2 in a row where you've hit Cosby as a reference.
Apparently it's not a good enough reference for some of us, but yes.
I say 2 in a row. This is out of space and time, so who knows?
I do know. What are you going to do?
At some point, you've mentioned
I'm going
Cosby
bigger.
twice.
We've talked for so long, I'm taking a bold stance on this. I'm going to say he was dead for a long fucking time.
Well, I originally wrote the wrong word after my number, which would have been terrifying if he was dead for how long I wrote out. Because I think at that point he would just be dead.
Well, yeah, at that point, he's just called dead.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
All right, question 4.
Mm-hmm.
A change.org site was started in his honor after people thought he looked sad when he was in The Affair. What was the title of the change.org site? Literally, it was a whole setup by his fans because they thought he looked sad.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, it's important. It was in 2016.
I cannot believe how many of these I'm clearly going to get wrong.
That's the whole point.
I think that's sort of the point, right?
Quit giving away the bit, guys.
Yeah, sorry, I've ruined the whole thing. Fifth one, tiebreaker's looking real important.
I'm so giggly. I'm sorry.
It's because you had that weird blue drink earlier. It's gone to your head.
I can't believe that Dunkin' Donuts brought back the energy punch. It was crazy. I went to go get 2 iced coffees, and there it was on the menu. And I'm like, do you really have it? And they're like, yeah, we can make one for you.
Yeah, if you go to the bathroom later and you wonder why a Smurf blew up in your toilet, it's probably just you pissing blue. I just want you to remember that.
Covered. It's the summer. Reruns. No, I already have blue toilet water. That's why I don't get a lot of red drinks.
Because you hate purple or just in general?
Well, no. Yeah. Pick your own joke here, ladies and gentlemen.
I love the idea. I love the idea that Will has created this. Your body is in such perfect harmony with the nutrients that it already has that you drink something and it doesn't need any of that, so it just comes out as if it just went in. Your body was like, nah, none of it. Just push it out the same way it came in.
Boom, straight through.
As long as I don't have Shrek's piss, I'm okay with it.
I mean, he'd be upset if he did as well, so...
Oh man.
I was going to question your belief that Smurfs were blue on the inside. Has that ever been tested?
Yeah, sure. Gargamel had that one episode.
Gargamel definitely cuts open a Smurf that one time. It's banned in America.
Yeah, I guess they got dark.
But you know what?
The
They have
Swedish
pink
comics,
tongues. There's a really good chance that inside their viscera is the same color as our viscera. If they had blue tongues, I would disagree with that. I think that Smurfs are organ colored inside.
Here's a real question for you: are they wearing pants or are they just white?
They're wearing pants.
Mm.
Yeah, they're wearing pants. Smurfette has on a dress. And also, Farmer Smurf has on green pants, and Handy Smurf has on blue overalls. Don't come at me with Smurf knowledge.
Just saying. Think about it.
Okay, but if you were to choke a Smurf, what color do they go?
Purple?
Okay. Sure. You sounded so resigned. Like,
Oh, matter of fact.
Well, you just get
Obviously.
darker. We get blue because... Navy. A choked Smurf is navy blue.
Chartreuse.
beautiful.
I really
Yeah,
want to...
like
I
if
want to
decorated.
start... I know that Peo... I don't think Peo is alive anymore. If he is alive, apologies, Peo. But I don't think Peo would support this, but I would fucking love Smurf remakes of movies. Because I would love to see a Smurf Flatliners. I think it'd be hilarious.
I think that would be funny, and I think but you do it in like the vein of the old Alvin and the Chipmunk, like meet Frankenstein style movies, where like you're not like beat for beat remaking movies, but essentially the same thing happens. So you point at it and you're like, well, that's the Back to the Future one, right? Because the Papa Smurf goes back in time to meets his younger self, right?
No, well, Papa Smurf would be
no. That's
Papa
clear, right? That's what I meant.
Yes.
Yes, that was the joke.
Accidentally sleeps with his mom.
No, himself.
Donnie,
Okay.
no, he sleeps with himself because they bud. That's why it sucks to be a Smurf, Will. Donnie Darko quote.
Did we finish the quiz?
No, we're on question 5. I'm vamping. I still don't have an answer for question 1.
I mean, we'll go back. I'll give you some clues as to who she is.
No.
No clues,
Okay.
no clues. It's fine.
Okay, cool. Question 5 it is then.
Yes.
In 1988, Brendan made his first official TV appearance on which long-running US TV show as a murder victim?
Ooh.
God damn it, we were just looking at this the other day trying to figure out what to do with him.
That has to be the right answer.
Has to be. Big call. Considering everything so far.
No, not Murphy Brown.
There were not as many dead bodies as I remember on Murphy Brown. I will say that. I mean, she killed its secretary every week, but very rarely did we see the corpse.
Okay, cool.
Question 6. Who did Brendan Fraser refuse to punch in Looney Tunes Back in Action until his co-star explained it's what he does for a living? So Fraser had to hit somebody. He didn't want to, till the co-star said, don't worry, it's what I do for a living.
Devin Decker's getting 1 point. Maybe.
Seaton seems less excited.
I'm trying to figure out if it's like a trick question and I'm supposed to name a Looney Tune, or if this is like an actual person that was on set with him.
Is that a rhetorical question? Or did you
No.
That's always rhetorical. We do not get any extra information.
That's good.
All right, I'm doing it. I'm going for it.
Yeah.
Are we jumping straight to answers, or would you like to go to another
No, let's jump straight to answers so that people who are listening to this, they get round 1 and they get a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Please, we got to give them some catharsis.
True. Okay. All good then. So question 1. Who did Brendan Fraser marry in September 1998? What do we got?
You can
Devin.
go first.
Oh, can I?
Yeah.
I put Alicia Silverstone. Why not? I think they had just finished making Blast from the Past, right?
That's a solid guess. I wrote Rose McGowan.
I'm afraid no points so far. It was Afton Smith.
You made that
right.
name up.
No Rider's house at a party.
Oh. Oh, right.
Oh, right. Afton Smith.
You know, Abden Smith. She was in other films that he wasn't in.
I mean, no offense to her, but why would you think we would have known that one?
I feel, you know, your Brendan Fraser history is pretty solid.
How long were they married? Were they married for a while?
They divorced in 2007.
Okay.
They almost made it 10 years. That's impressive.
I know, pretty good. I mean, they still live nearby. She's in Connecticut with the family, and he's not too far away.
Oh,
is he in Rhode Island? Does Brendan Fraser live in Rhode Island, and I'm just a total idiot?
I checked that off as if I got it right. Hold on, wait.
That's how you win.
I got all 6 correct. I think you said Alicia Silverstone.
All right, rolling through. Question 2. What is Brendan Fraser's middle name?
London.
You said to pick our favorite name, so I said William.
Sucking up, you piece of shit.
It's almost worthy of a bonus point.
Yeah?
Almost.
Oh.
Well, I said London because he is clearly the triplet of...
Yes.
What the hell is happening?
Someone was at the door.
Oh, well, I figured someone was at the door. I didn't know what door. He's clearly the triplet of Jeremy and Jason London. So in tribute to that, he kept that last name as his middle name and adopted the surname of Fraser.
I wish I could say yes to both of you, but it's actually James. He is Brendan James Fraser.
Oh.
Well, at least my first guess of Aaron wasn't correct.
Yes, wasn't also correct is what you were going for there, wasn't it?
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
I got 2 numbers down for number 3, and I don't know which one to go with.
Ask the question again, because I want to make sure I'm working in the right...
How long was he legally dead?
But he said, in seconds. That's what I wanted to make sure that... Because I wrote down minutes the first time. And I'm
I think more than 2 minutes. Yeah, I think more than 2 minutes, you're gone, right?
Right.
Like, or at least it's such severe brain damage.
I mean, if it's just on the set, he didn't get taken to hospital.
Yeah.
So, well, he may, you know. So yeah, how long in seconds
in this country
legally dead for on the set of The Mummy? What do we got?
I wrote.
At first, I lowballed it. At first, I lowballed it, but then I decided I was going to go big, and I'm going to say 37 seconds.
Okay, 37.
That seems like a long time to me.
I said
higher or lower.
45 seconds.
I mean, now, are we giving it to whoever's closest?
Oh, damn.
You're the Quizmaster.
I would say if we're both in 5, we should both get it. And I take that note.
Oh, no. Neither of you are within 5.
Was it 10 seconds?
No, it was 18 seconds.
Oh, my original guess was 17. I'm so mad at myself.
Oh. You know, I'm going to give Sejan a half point for being closest. But only because Devin was like, I mean, you were both quite a long way away.
I mean, I originally wrote down 45 minutes.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, no, that's dead.
Shit, I should have gone with 17. It's fine.
He was legally dead forever. No. But hey,
and that's why we celebrate him every May.
We're 3 questions in, and the score is a half to Sejan and none to Devin. So this is... I'm glad.
You can't tell, but I just jumped and froze in the air.
How do I stop it?
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Am I going to die?
I know the answer to this one.
Question 4. Is it because you started the change.org site?
No.
That's what I thought.
So, yes, after looking sad in the affair, the change.org site was started in his honor by fans. What was the title?
Raisin Fraser.
I wrote, Make Brendan Fraser Smile Again.
Both lovely answers. The official title was Bring Brendan Fraser Back into Films and Television.
Oh.
Clear message. Clear message.
Also kind of a weird message because it's not like he was like not working.
Well, yeah, it's because
we saw him in television. The affair.
Yeah.
And we're like, we need to bring him back to films and television.
The actual, I mean, if you want to go into the full backstory, his mother had just passed away. So, you know, completely valid that he was looking sad in whatever he was doing. Had nothing to do with him not being in film and television, but nice that the fans care.
That is nice. Fans usually don't care at all.
I mean, I think the fact we're in year 6 proves that fans care.
True, very true.
Question 5. In 1988, Brendan made his first official TV appearance in which long-running US TV show as a murder victim? What are we doing?
I said it was Quincy.
I wrote down the wrong thing because I misheard the year, so I'm now changing my answer to Hill Street Blues.
I mean, you've gone with nice long-running US TV shows. I'm afraid the answer is actually America's Most Wanted.
Really?
He was in a reenactment as a dead body.
Oh.
That's funny because he's Canadian.
Well, that's why we know he didn't do it, so it's okay, right?
So, yeah,
Because you
it's
always
fine.
risk that.
Well, he
You
was
bring
the
actor
murder
in to play the
victim.
murder- Right.
We know he didn't do it. He didn't kill himself. Then
Well,
he'd
you're
be
not
a
gonna get the murder
suicide victim.
accidentally cast in the thing. They're dead.
Well, yeah, it's very hard to cast that person.
Yeah, exactly. But the killer, we all know there's a risk in that.
They would, returning to the scene of the crime. That's massively returning to the scene of the crime.
I mean, that's returning to the remake of the scene of the crime.
Imagine
And
if
if halfway
Brendan
through, you're like, "That's
Fraser
not how I
killed.
did
So
it."
wait. Hold on for a second. I need to make sure I understand what we're positing here. Brendan Fraser is the murderer, and to throw off
No, he
suspicion,
can't be the murderer. No, you missed
No,
it.
he's
he
not
cannot
American.
be the
It didn't
murderer
happen.
because he is Canadian. It's America's Most Wanted, Devin.
oh, okay, all right, good. But I'm just saying that'd
Not
be a.
North America's Most Wanted.
Can you freaking imagine like that as the cover for murdering somebody? You murder somebody and then you get cast in the reenactment of that murdered person. Nobody's gonna think you killed them.
But now, would you want to be cast as the murderer or the murderee?
The murderee. So I kill John Dimble, right? And then
poor
I
John
see. I'm sorry, but John Dimble was an asshole. He cut
Yeah,
me
yeah.
off in traffic, so I hit him in the back of the head with a steel baseball
very
bat.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
So I kill John Dimble. I hope that John Dimble, if you're out there and you're listening, I'm sorry for invoking
Watch out for
your
baseball
name.
bats, John. Jeez.
But I kill John Dimble, and then I see that America's Most Wanted is casting for John Dimble. I apply and get the role. Nobody's gonna fucking think that I'm the one who killed John Dimble.
Well, yeah, you go to court and you just say, well, I got video evidence showing I can't be the murderer because I'm the victim.
Now, are you? But that's the thing. What if you see somebody doing it wrong? Like
Yeah,
you
no,
know
you
you
definitely-
killed them in this
well,
way, and
you
you're like
definitely
going,
correct.
"Oh God!"
You pull what we call the O.J. Simpson.
And you write an "if I did it."
If I did it.
If I did it, it would have been a steel baseball bat to the back of the head. Why would I have a shovel? I'm not a grave digger.
I'm just googling John Dimble, Rhode Island to double check. I think you're okay.
Can we get to the last question so that I'm ahead now, but Devin can come in and stomp me by getting one thing right?
Oh, yeah, sure. Question 6. Who did Fraser refuse to punch in Looney Tunes Back in Action until the co-star explained it was what he does for a living? Devin, take your lap of victory if you are correct.
Goldberg.
I see
WWE.
And Devin takes it 1 to a half. It was Bill Goldberg, or Bill Goldberg, if you put his name in the middle.
I almost said Ron Perlman, which would have also been
Which
wrong,
would have
but
been a
that
very
would have
good
been-
answer, yeah.
It would have been a good answer, but yeah, and also incorrect. But hey, good first welcome round.
That was fun.
High
I had a
scoring.
good time, yeah. It
mean-
turns out I know more about Brendan Fraser as the characters he played than Brendan Fraser, and that I never really realized that. And it's been 6 years.
Well, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing this. So you guys, you can learn by doing.
That's true. I'm never going to forget that he married Afton Smith in 1998 at Winona Ryder's house.
No, they just met at Winona Ryder's house. I don't think they got married there.
Oh, it
That's
wasn't
not
one of
funny.
those. It wasn't a wedding party at Winona Ryder's. We're all getting married. We're crazy, crazy
coincidence they were there.
Hollywoodians. I've been to a wedding party at Winona Ryder's house. That's when me and Natalie Portman broke up. Because I'm just going to mix up all the fictions.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Now, with Winona Ryder, is she like hosting weddings or is it just a coincidence?
What was... What?
Does Winona Ryder, is she like, no, do it at my house. I love having weddings at my house.
No,
Or he's just like, hey,
does
we
she
know
do it
that
for
we were just
everybody?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just walks the beaches of LA and she's just like, no. Come
Oh,
with
you
me.
guys look
Come
happy.
to my
that's her
house.
community service for that whole shoplifting thing she did.
I was trying to figure out how we were gonna get that in there because, goddamn her, she served her time and she is back on top. That's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, she did serve her time. She is back on top. Her community service still stipulates that if someone needs a place to get married, she will open up her home to them.
That's a fair deal. And there is also a horrific game based on her name because, like, kill, kiss, marry, push off a cliff, or whatever it is.
Fuck, marry, kill.
That's the one. Yeah. You have win, own, or ride her.
Oh my god.
Well, there it is.
I think that's funny enough for us to end on.
Yeah, 14-year-old CJ gets a kick out of that.
I wish I could take credit. It is actually a comedian called Mr. Glenn Moore. He's an amazing human being. He used to be a newsreader, got bored of that, became a comedian.
Like you do, I have to imagine.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go the other way, but,
Yeah, right?
As long as you're happy.
I don't want to talk about any of the people who went the other way because I think it ended badly a lot of the time. All right, so this has been round 1 of the Brendan Fraser History Month big quiz of Brendan Fraser. Will, thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to get in touch with any of us, we gave our information at the beginning, during the end of the last episode. So the Say Report, you can get us directly at the Say Report on Twitter. And yeah, so that's it. We'll see you next time. Will, do you want to throw to yourself?
Wait, do we not do our whole outro? What do we do?
Well, we should probably do the outro here, right? Not where I messed up.
Yeah, you guys do that. I'll wait.
I'm thrown. I'm completely thrown. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Say Report, where we focused on Dudley Do-Right. As I hope we said in the first part, but just covering our asses, next week we will be watching the Brendan Fraser hidden gem that is Sinbad Beyond the Veil of the Mists. And that's mists, plural.
It's not the mists. Beyond the veil of mists.
Oh, I thought it was Beyond the Veil of the Mists.
No, it's all over the map.
That's what I wrote down.
Just like this movie. We'll see.
I've got it written down as BTVOM.
Yeah, there you go.
Sinbad BTVOM.
Yes.
As it's known,
right? Yeah, well, that's what the Criterion cover just says.
Yeah, the
that's
Criterion.
all it says. Yeah.
So if you want to make sure you're caught up and you're watching everything that we're watching, it's Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mists. And if you would like to yell at Sejin for, losing right off the bat instead of this being his year, you can find him on Twitter at Siege versus the World.
I was doing pretty damn good there.
You were. I was proud of you. I was scared.
And if you want to join me in wishing Giancarlo Esposito a happy birthday today, you can hit Devin up at Devin D. Decker.
Yup. I am responsible for Giancarlo Esposito's birthday. It's going to happen to all of us eventually. The man is eternal. He lives forever.
And he's in everything now, including your life.
Yeah. And we agreed long ago that alphabetically we would each throw him a happy birthday, and it's my year this year. So happy birthday, Giancarlo Esposito.
Is this like jury duty? Like everyone gets a turn?
Yeah, exactly. Just like everyone gets married at Winona Ryder's or something. Call back.
Yes, where Esposito does the weddings.
He's eternal. He's only his law is bond. Will, do you want to send us home?
Yeah, sounds good. Everybody who didn't have enough of me, here's a bit more of me. Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.